Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We're calling this meeting to order. Everybody, meeting's called to order. If you're not up here, please don't talk. Roll call. Patrice Berlin.
Here.
Brian Carroll.
Here.
Claire Currit.
Here.
Alex Isbicki.
Here.
Lisa Karagian. I have not heard from her. Patrick Lewis is here. Heidi McKay. Janine is excused. Mr. Niederberg.
Here.
Eric Previn.
Here.
Craig Radow.
Here.
Keith Schwallenberg.
Here.
Rob is no longer there. I know, it's sad. The people who wanted him off got him off. Andrew Sussman.
Okay.
Richard Welsh. Denise Welding.
Yes.
There you go. Approval of the December minutes. Did everyone have a chance to read those? We have public comment on this. Can we start the clock right now? Richard Adams?
I'd like to point out that audio recordings are not minutes. A transcript created by a robot of whatever was recorded are not minutes. It's a transcript, and it's a particularly defined document. So we really need to get a secretary, or since you've got authorization to spend the money, get somebody to transcribe things and produce minutes and approve minutes so we are in compliance with the city guidance, state law, and just generally function as a way an organized elected body is supposed to function. You guys all wanted to be here, you guys all wanted to do this, then you found out it was hard and you don't want to do it right, you just want to do it a slipshod way. That's inappropriate and a disgrace to the offices you hold.
Let the record reflect that Lisa Karagian is here.
Lisa Karagian is here. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Lisa.
Mr. President?
No.
No,
What?
No, I have a comment.
Sorry, I'm late.
On what?
Well, I have a comment on the minutes.
No.
Okay.
Okay. So my comment on the minutes is, not take into consideration what the member of the public said. We heard at the Friday night forum also about minutes. There are people who, in our community, benefit from looking at some kind of a written minute. So it was thrown around the room a little bit on the Friday, and people agreed that though there was not the need for a narrative, since you could watch the audio recording, it would be helpful to see on an agenda next to the item the board vote. So a couple ideas were suggested about how we could do that, including simply writing on the agenda the board vote. And it seemed like the community wanted that, so I would just suggest that we I don't feel that, this is about transparency, but it's about also user-friendliness. So I don't know if people have suggestions, but it seemed like a good idea. So I don't know if I have to say anything else other than that. Maybe we could think about that.
Okay, so approval to December minutes. Does anyone else have anything to say on that? We could probably just vote on that, yeah? Patrice, actually, we can just show of hands because it's not money related. All in favor of approving the December minutes? Denise, you're against?
No, abstain, because I didn't have time to read them. Or
Okay.
listen to them.
Here.
If I didn't listen, I wasn't here.
That's right, you weren't here.
No.
Okay, update by the president. I just want to say something real quick. Keep in mind that when public are talking today, we're not going to talk back to them. They're going to say their 1 minute, and that's it. There's not going to be any back and forth. It's their time to talk. They get their time, and that's it. Anyone got it? Okay, public comments. Richard Adams, 1 minute, please.
You're absolutely right. Those minutes only have to be the bare minimum information, voted, et cetera, things like that. Any changes to what was published in the agenda. Okay, no back and forth. Does that also mean you're going to refrain from insulting and denigrating stakeholders before and after the meeting, or possibly even emails among board members in the city? Because that would be a refreshing change from your past behavior this fall. Yeah, I know. You're flipping me off Obama style. You're neither subtle, funny, nor smart, but pretending you're any of the above.
As always, Barry Johnson?
I'll pass.
Okay. Craig, is this where you wanted to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll just,
You okay?
well, no, it's very slippery, be careful.
I'll get you my
Because
guy.
Brian,
Claim form, I'll get you a claim form.
Thank you. It'll be 2 minutes. As my wife and I are no longer stakeholders of Studio City, Tonight, I regrettably step down as an elected board member of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, and I will exit as Public Safety Chair by the end of the month. Of course, I will leave sooner if directed by our president. I began the process for my homeowner board seat nearly 3 years ago as my concerns over the direction of our neighborhood. I needed to get involved and do something. I can proudly say that no one has fought harder for more police patrol in Studio City and across the East San Fernando Valley than myself and the entire Public Safety Committee. And this month, we will get a handful of more officers. Since elected, I've hosted 17 public safety meetings, welcomed numerous speakers, handled individual stakeholder complaints, hosted events at our police and fire stations, passed many motions, and filed community impact statements relating to issues of crime, quality of life, and mental health, one of which the board will vote on tonight. I promised the neighborhood I'd keep the pressure on our councilman, mayor, and other officials. This I have clearly accomplished. If these local leaders cannot adequately protect or improve the quality of life for residents, I suggest they step aside or not run again. In regards to the elections for a new Studio City board taking place in May, I caution residents to stay clear of power-hungry previous board members whose outdated thinking, questionable alliances, and poor decisions nearly destroyed the community, best exemplified by Harvard Westlake's earth-shaking parking lot proposal on Coldwater Canyon. There are real leaders emerging in Studio City, so please look forward instead of backwards of who should represent you. I'm almost done. From day one, this board has had to face a lot of turbulence, and for a group of volunteers, we've done pretty good. I wish all my new friends on the board the best of luck. It has been an enjoyable ride. Thank you to our past board president, Denise Welvang, and current president, Patrick Lewis. Special thanks to the Public Safety Committee, Patty Kirby, Rachel Tobias, Patrice Berlin, Alex Zbicki, Michael Pistielli, and Marcia Newman, as well as Peter Cole for ongoing support and meeting recordings. Studio City has been my home for all 18 years in Los Angeles, and I am disappointed to move on. Keep in touch, everyone.
Where are you moving to?
I'll get it.
Are you still in the city of LA?
Ish.
What does that mean?
I'll tell you.
Glendale, Burbank.
So you don't
Run,
wanna-
run for the
You're
hills.
good?
What?
You don't want to stay up for the,
No, I shouldn't be up. I can't vote. I shouldn't vote.
you sure?
It was effective on Monday, otherwise I would have told you earlier.
But you're bringing a motion, aren't you?
Well, as long as I'm still public safety committee. I
Okay.
Thank you for your service.
Vicky? Vicky, would you like to, yes?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Last time I was told to speak louder into the microphone. So, hi. I'm Vicki Nussbaum. I introduced myself to you guys back in December. I'm the new executive director for the Studio City Business District. And I wanted to present to you an idea tonight for an intersection mural. I think I mentioned it briefly in December. I put in an application on behalf of the Studio City Business District for this intersection mural. It's part of Mayor Garcetti's People Street program, and it's a unique cycle in that there's actually funding for the art, unlike what is often available. And I apologize, I intended to make copies for you, but I'm going to pass around a little sheet that the People Street program has. These are just samples of intersection. Just samples of the kinds of intersection murals that exist in other cities. So what we've been required to do right now is just say that we want one, and the bid has had to say that we will supply the liability insurance for it, and we will do the maintenance and the upkeep, and we're responsible for removing it when it's time to remove. The city will actually help us design it. We'll provide the materials and all the construction and installation, and the design is not required yet, so I don't have a design to show you. But really what they've asked for, what part of the application is support from the council member's office and a presentation to you and hopefully support from the neighborhood council. So I don't know if anybody, oh, and I apologize, did I tell you Ventura Boulevard and Laurel is where we're talking about? So, any questions?
Actually, before we get to this, we
Sorry.
got public comments on this first, so we're going to address them. Let's see, we have Richard Adams.
Public comments on this?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
I know, it's hard to believe.
I checked it out. The last time we put in design sidewalks, they were at the like a crosswalk, and at the corner down there by California Pizza Kitchen, whatever that corner is. I support this idea, but, and I think this board should pass a motion that we support it generally, but we shouldn't give final approval until when you have the design, it goes in front of land use, possibly cultural affairs, to make sure the design is compliant with the Ventura specific plan, and fits in with the neighborhood and is appropriate for the area. That's the way things are supposed to be done. And like I said, we support the idea in general. Final approval, we need to at least be allowed to weigh in on the design so that it fits in with the rest of the city.
Cool, thank you. Barry?
So this would be for the whole intersection, not just the crosswalks?
Not necessarily. I think that's part of the specific design. It could be done just in the crosswalks, it could be done in the intersections, it could be part. Some of the pictures that I've passed are quite creative, and again, it's going to depend a lot upon what is appropriate for the community.
I'm curious on the liability. Is the liability if somebody stops in the center of the intersection to look at the artwork and gets hit by a car? Is that the liability?
It's just one of the requirements that the city has, that the community partner has to carry liability insurance. I couldn't
And just
answer.
one last thing, that intersection is named
Yeah.
something square, I'm forgetting the name.
Circle.
But perhaps you might want to look into who that person was, and I don't know if you tie in the artwork. So just an idea.
Very interesting, okay.
Thanks. No, Richard, we're gonna work around. We'll get to you for sure. 100% guaranteed for sure. Eric, do you have anything?
Just maybe that it would be fun if there was a way to have people submit designs.
I totally agree. A
Contest.
community contest would be a great idea. I would have strong preference for it being someone local. I mean, it would be a beautiful thing if there was a Studio City artist who wanted to do this and the design was also the right quality and the right one.
Maybe a
Yeah.
design contest.
I agree. I think it's a great idea.
I
Righty.
agree. I concur.
Patrice?
No, is it just painted? Or
It's
is it
purely
enameled?
just painted,
Okay, okay.
as
That's it?
opposed to,
No, well, I don't know. I just didn't know, enameled or, I don't
No,
know.
it's
or
purely paint.
Tile or
Nope,
whatever.
paint.
Okay.
That's it. I think the concrete that they used to do was stamped. I think this is just paint.
What you mean is there's not gonna be any construction time on
No
this?
construction.
Brian?
Just generally, I think I support it in general terms, but how to decide which design is chosen will be the board, I think.
Agreed.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yeah, thank you for putting it together and doing the work to do it.
Yep, I'm okay.
I too am very interested in the project, so I'm very interested as to how you're going to make it happen.
Me too.
Very interested.
I've seen them in other cities. They're interesting.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, my one concern is that how is it going to coordinate with the, as the Andrew Sekharov intersection or whatever it is right now? Also, how's it gonna tie in to the Walk of Fame we have with the Stars and Sidewalk? It should be cohesive.
Again, I don't have design, so I can't answer that now, but I think those are all interesting things to take into consideration.
Be a portrait of Sakharov.
Yeah.
Is there one?
Just a big face.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Okay, are we good? Are we good to vote on this? It's not funding, so let's just do a show of hands. All in favor of supporting motion A, 5A? Okay, there we go.
So may I ask one question?
Yes.
Is it possible to actually get a notice that the board supported it? How
For
is
sure.
that done? Oh, that can be done?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
absolutely.
Thank you guys so much, I really appreciate it. And I will reach out again, maybe Patrick or Lisa, you said you were interested. If you guys know artists or you have ideas on how we as a community can work on this, I'm totally open to reaching out. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Miss Jessica, she was here?
Yeah.
No, I don't see her. There she is.
Some privacy, so they can play here. That's big enough to play. It's a pud size. Valencia, that's what you get in Valencia. Everyone's quality of life has to be down the toilet.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Everyone swam here very well. If you can, avoid Valley anywhere near North Hollywood at all. Just avoid it completely. There's 3 accidents, and it's horrific, and just avoid it. So tonight, first of all, welcome back. Happy New Year, everyone. I am a little bit behind on email, so apologies to Lisa. I will get back to you. I responded to yours, Andrew. I need to get to BOE. Keith, I know I wanted to talk to you about something else. I haven't responded to that yet. So first things first, tomorrow, our public safety town hall with Michael, Chief of Police, Michael Moore. So for those of you who have RSVP'd, when you RSVP'd, you were also asked to include your questions. I have gone over everyone's questions that were submitted that are in my area. I've added several to that list from people that I know have questions that weren't addressed. The town hall starts at 6:30, probably closer to 6:45, 7, and the chief will also take questions at the end in addition to the ones that we'll provide him, and of course the council member. I encourage everyone to go to this event. Everyone, so I'll leave some of the flyers here. Let's see. So the traffic management study, on November 1st, I sent out an update to everyone that I had that contacted me on the progress of the study. Public comments were accepted until November 30th, but I did receive comments after that period of time, and I just sent them directly to Gibson. Not a problem at all. So in terms of an update on that, they will be scheduling a community meeting in the spring. I don't have any dates yet for that. I have a conference call scheduled with them next week for updates. There will be someone from Gibson will be attending the Laurelwood HOA meeting, which is January 31st. If anyone's interested in that meeting, just email me. I'll send you the contact information. And as a reminder, in that email that I sent out, it included a 31-page attachment, which went over in detail all the stuff about the NTM study. So if you need that from me, send me an email. I'll get to you next week with that document. Next thing on the list, I have gotten a lot of emails about outstanding PPDs. This section of DOT has suffered a lot of retirements, a lot. So they are severely short-staffed. That is the reason for the long delay. I have probably about 5 or 6 outstanding. I ask if you haven't gotten a response from Felix with DOT to please give me a call and I will remind him for you. Another thing that I've gotten a handful of requests about was the signal timing, actually, at the light at Coldwater Canyon and Mulholland. Yes. So I reached out to DOT, 3 weeks ago, and they finally got back to me yesterday. They said it has been confirmed that the signal is operating as designed in the peak periods. Coldwater Canyon Avenue and Mulholland Drive received up to 140 seconds, depending upon demand. Therefore, the signal will remain unchanged at this time. That's their response. And I also want to update everyone. The Public Works reached out to our office to let us know they're doing some more emergency sewer repair work in Studio City. This one will take a lot less time than the previous one. These flyers have either been mailed to the property owners who live in the surrounding areas or actually dropped off to those areas. So the date and times, they're going to do one section each, Monday, January 21st through Friday, April 19th. So the first location is the intersection of Beck Avenue and Aqua Vista. The next one is the midway point between the intersections of Aqua Vista and Craft, Aqua Vista and Tahunga, and then the third is point just west of the intersection of Aqua Vista and Tahunga. Their construction activities will be set up breakdown of construction equipment, excavation, reinforcement of sewer crown, restoration of construction area, and they'll repave the area. They've also assured us they will put those plates over top, and they will not be blocking any access to driveways, so if anyone sees that, please let me know. Work will not, as I said before, work will not occur simultaneously, so one each section. If you detect any odors, anybody smells anything outside, please let me know. I had this happen last year, right around Christmas. Someone called complaining that their home, inside their home, which is not supposed to happen, smelled like, that stuff. I managed to locate someone within a department who loves this stuff. It's like their hobby. They were able to fix it for me, like literally a few days before Christmas. It was a super amazing thing that I got done. So, and they will also have, directing vehicle and pedestrian traffic. They'll have barriers, directing people around to go in other directions. The contact information, if you have any questions for sanitation, is 310-961-8225, and the contact is Joshua Melendez. Just note that, like today when it's raining, they're not going to be doing any work. And yeah, that's all the main things. I have not, I know that the teacher strike is going on, but that's not a city, the city of LA doesn't have any control over LAUSD, so I actually haven't gotten any call. Actually, no, I got 2 calls and I sent them to Scott Schmerelson. Any
Yeah, we'll
questions?
open up. Richard Adams?
Sure.
Yeah, going along with DOT wins, DOT got to the fairway intersections they improved and took the signal off the timer and put it back on pads like it's supposed to. You and Jeff still need to pursue them to get engineering to unscrew the restriping process so that people can turn right off the fairway without waiting for a light, and that there's a left turn lane into Jerry's parking lot, Jerry's Deli, because people are now stopping in the inside eastbound lane to turn left across the other left turn lane, and it backs up traffic, and damn near caused an accident the first day I ran into it.
Can you send me a reminder email?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Other than that, thank you for all the things you've gotten done over the months.
Happy to help.
Yes, sir.
We got an emergency right now. I came over the bridge at Radford. There's some big chunks of the street missing.
Yeah, I anticipated that would happen, so I actually went ahead and already reported it to street services. It is, yeah, I first saw that happening because for some reason that little section is really horrendous. Like it probably hasn't been paved. I haven't checked yet, but it probably hasn't been paved in a long time. So I've already put them on the radar, and when it's like this, they're not going to come out. So, yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up.
But there's big holes there and big chunks of
Yes.
the street that was gonna fall in.
Before I leave today, I'm going to give you my card so I can update you.
Barry?
Is that where this asphalt meets the cement bridge in the dividing line? Okay, I know where you mean.
I also got a request from a woman about the railing, the way it's designed. So I have to locate the proper person within the city department who's responsible for that particular bridge, which seems easy but is not.
And the only other thing I was going to say is it's a shame that the Aqua Vista sewer work wasn't done before the street was repaved for like the first time in 30 years.
And the reason it was repaved is because of me. Yeah, I put that on the list. I added about 4 others on that list. I know. The curb issue, I am working on. I still haven't gotten a response from the individual, so, but I'll work on that.
Eric?
Just wanted to mention that the river is dangerous. Be careful near the river at this time, when the water is running. Thank you.
100%.
Heidi?
Yes. So on Coldwater Canyon, there's just above St. Michael's, there's a huge pothole that a neighbor had called and they filled it. When the city came to fill it, they said that was actually the worst they've seen in the city. That tells you how bad it is, right?
That section is horrendous, yeah.
So that is horrendous. And it's on Coldwater, so it's right in front of his house. He just sent me pictures. It's opened up again, obviously.
Of course.
So I know that Coldwater is to be repaved someday.
So hopefully someday very soon, because I added it on the list when I first got here, and I'm assuming it was there before me, but I can't. So Jackie and I, the district director, just to clarify, are going to sit down and talk with the higher ups because we need to know how much it's going. They may not be, in other words, the whole section I would like done, but they may not be able to do that whole section. It may be split up in 2 sections. So that's what I'm trying to figure out, is if I can get at least one of those done this fiscal year. That's my main section to get done because it's horrible.
It is.
It's horrible. It is literally horrible.
And I knew it was kind of on hold because the DWP was supposedly finishing the water main.
Yes.
And I live right there, and from what I've heard, and I don't know exactly, but it's just literally a very small part of Coldwater, and then it's going to go up a side street and up a Westie. So all I'm saying is if they're holding off Coldwater because of that work is not going to be really like long, so they could, just repave that after the work, but at least do cold water in the meantime because it's so bad.
So what the way it works is if the city has any outstanding permits for, say, DWP or any other utility, they're not going to touch the street until all of those things. And that's what we're trying to make sure that everything's done so that we can go ahead and repave it.
Well, that's my concern, because it
Yeah.
might be a while then, and then people are avoiding.
We're gonna find out because it's been a while. To be honest, right? It's been a while
Oh,
already.
yeah.
So it really
They
needs to get done.
They need to do it.
And because CD4 did theirs, more of a reason to do ours.
Yes, that's true, that's true.
Pothole, Woodsit and Ventura, they fixed it, a real bad one.
Yeah.
Yesterday or the day before, and it's already bad.
What's gonna happen is once this rain stops, I'm literally just gonna drive my district and start taking photos because I don't know how many people are gonna do it, and it's just gonna have to be done. I wish they would just automatically figure that out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and down palm trees. I've seen a lot of palm fronds that I'll have to take care of if they're not down. So like next week, I'm gonna be spending a lot of time out in the
Thank
field.
you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'll just wait for the storm to be over and let you know.
Me too.
Are there flyers for the town hall? Are there flyers for the town hall tonight in the back?
I'll put them in the back. Yeah, they're right here. Great. Yeah.
Thanks for your predictive algorithms and for going the extra mile driving around the city looking for potholes. It's pretty unusual, I think, in the line of work of a government official, and I appreciate your efforts.
Anytime. Thank you.
I'm just curious, we had someone from the mayor's office come like 6 months ago, and they talked about like, they wanted to bring some innovation to what we're talking about, where like different departments all wanting to do stuff on the road and like figuring out that order and organize. Has there been any movement on that from the mayor's office?
I haven't the slightest idea.
Okay.
If you could send me an email with that question, I'll follow it to Naz. If you have time tonight, because I'm going to go to City Hall. We have our all-staff meeting tomorrow. Oh, that reminds me, I have one more announcement. We have an all-staff meeting tomorrow morning, so if you could, I can try to drop by and see if she's in the office.
Okay.
She works out of City Hall and also the Van Nuys location. Great question. I have no idea.
Okay.
Hi, Alex.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Thanks for coming. I just want to echo Richard's appreciation of all what you do. And you know, the town hall meeting tomorrow, I still have to email you, and I will.
Sure.
To me, it's just a little bit troubling to know that rather than just having back and forth, maybe, you know, that questions have to be pre-sent in.
Well, no, he's going to.
What's that?
So he's going to accept, so the council member is going to ask him his questions that the council member has himself. Then he's going to ask the questions that we got in advance, and then he's going to take questions from the audience.
Okay, I'm just hoping when I see it, they're not going to be softball questions. And
Oh, I've seen, no, they're not. Not in the
and
least.
another thing I just want to say, just so we can get down to like the brass tacks, we have big issues with safety and with our policing and all the rest of it.
Sure.
That you don't have like 45 minutes of introductions of all the great brass and everyone claps and they basically say the same thing, how things are so tough, or we need budgets, we need the Prop 47, 57. We get it. What we want, and this is just my recommendation, just let's get down to questions and how we can resolve them, because we've heard so much of the babble and we're here. So that's all I would say. But again, thanks for doing things like this on behalf of the councilman's office. We need more of it, but we just need it a little more loose and a little more exchange rather than pontificating and listening to the same long-winded BS we listen to all the time. Thank you.
I hear you, and I will let you know that I went to an event where Chief Michael Moore was speaking, and I will just tell you that he's not your standard.
Pontificator?
In a good way. In a good way. Like he's not your standard like political. Well, police aren't technically supposed to be political, but they have their own politics. He's not your standard police officer in what you think at all. Like he's not. He's very different in a good way.
I know, and I'm sure he is, but
Okay.
leave the lieutenant. Hey, stop cutting me off. I'm not done.
Okay.
All right? Relax.
Okay, keep
Listen,
repeating yourself over
thanks.
and over. Let's
Thank you,
go.
Patrick. Thanks for
Yeah.
your guidance. Thank you. The point is, all the brass that talked before him, which are like I know how they are.
Yes.
I'm glad that's a refreshing change. But thank you for that, Jessica.
No problem.
All right, Patrick, you're okay. You can say whatever you'd like. Thank you.
No, I'm just moving on.
All right, thank you.
I gave my time to Alex.
Thank you.
Oh, that's how we got it. Okay, Lisa.
Andrew, I will, one second. I promise you, like, I've had to do a lot of things from former that were never done. I will definitely get yours done. Some of the individuals that you had worked with in the past no longer work with the city, but there are 4 that still do. So if it takes me having to go down to them at City Hall to get the job done, I will do that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been over 3 years.
Yeah, I sometimes find things come out of nowhere and there was no record. So just everybody knows if they don't know that. Everything I do is in our case management system. I keep notes of everything because I worked in law and it's just how I am. There was never any records prior. So I'm glad that you sent me all the emails.
Lisa?
Okay.
Hi, Lisa. I owe you an email.
Yes, thank you for acknowledging my email. And also, I wanted to ask if the councilman's office can do something for Craig. I don't know if you were here when he stepped down, resigned, Mr. Craig, rather. But he did do a very good job in getting the community together in public safety, brought a lot of attention to it. So,
Yes, I mean 100%.
yeah.
I mean,
That would be really
I didn't know, Craig. And please still be there tomorrow. Okay, because your questions are going to be asked very, very early on.
But if we can get him a certificate.
Trust me, I read your mind. It doesn't, you have to understand, it's not political, it doesn't matter. You're a constituent, like you work with the community, right?
I wouldn't mind hanging that up.
As you should. You did a great job.
Thank you.
No questions, Denise? No. Okay. Hi, Richard.
Hi.
Great event in December. You had a great event in December.
Yes, we're gonna hope to have
Luminaria.
June.
The Luminaria.
Luminaria. He's Luminaria.
Yeah.
In December,
Yeah.
I loved it, yeah, thank you. I appreciate all the help I got from your office and everywhere else.
Anytime. Do you have anything else?
I think
And that's all for now.
Okay. I do have one more announcement that I forgot, even though it's right in front of my face. So if anyone doesn't know, I will let you know that in December, right before the holiday, right before our staff, the office closed, our chief of staff, Irene, has left the city officially. He was with the council member for 8 years, but with the city for, I think, 13, 14 years in total, a very long time. So the council member announced at our holiday party that his replacement is Cara Torosian. So our planning director position is, right now he's trying to do both. So we will hopefully very soon be looking for a new director of planning. Also, our communications director, Ian, left our office, and he's now with Ron Galperin's office. So Marin has assumed the position of communications director. I don't have any updates in terms of any other staff changes as of yet. The council member has to still review things.
So I'm sorry, who's the new chief of staff?
Cara Torosian. Caro, yeah. If you need his email, just let me know. It's on our website too.
Cool.
And if you ever need anything from Caro or anyone else, just CC me on those requests. If anyone emails Caro, CC me. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Jessica.
No problem.
Thank you.
Agenda item 7 is going to be tabled due to the strike. The presentation we're going to have is not able to go on tonight, so we're going to hold off on that until February.
Mr. President, before Jessica leaves, I just want to announce that Congressman Sherman is having a town hall on the 19th, and so we put some flyers out in the back. Yeah, just so you know, and the public knows that on the 19th at Chatsworth School, the Congressman Brad Sherman is having a town hall.
Real quick, we have Gibson for a moment.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, members of the public. My name is Gibson from the Department of Empowerment. Craig, I just want to say thank you. Also, thank you for your suggestions, your critiques, and also your participation. I think they've been helpful in the council as much as fair as possible, and I really want to say appreciate it from me as a department liaison and as your NEA. I do appreciate your participation in every way, shape, or form. So I would definitely like to follow up on that one. So just kind of want to bring 1 or 2 items to everybody's attention. I know there was an email that I had sent in regards to serial communication. And the email was in regard to the January 7th, it was, the email sent, the reason why I sent the serial communication email asking board members to not email one another is to just avoid any serial communications stemmed from the January 7th email for the budget committee. And I have a copy of the one that I was mentioning, just like whenever you want to communicate, just BCC one another with no intent of wanting to create communication. But if you do want to reach out to board members, I always recommend starting with the president. It's just a matter to make sure that we're not in, it doesn't become an issue that it's a Brown Act issue when it comes to serial communication. It's just precaution. So if you're not able to attend any committee meeting, just start with the president, but don't send to the board, to the whole board email. And if you do want to bring in sort of highlight about an event to your fellow board members, just send as a BCC. And that's why I sent that email. So the BCC is helpful because what you're doing is you're just informing each other and you're not creating a level of oh, Jessica, you forgot your phone, but okay. But it's a level to make sure that you're not in communication with one another, so it doesn't look like it's a Brown Act violation. Because I'm trying to make sure we mitigate an issue of where the board is being accused of communicating behind closed doors, and that's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to make sure that it's a matter. Every discussion within the board is a matter of public discussion, and it's just that's why I sent that email. And I have the email if anybody wants to see which email I'm talking about. It's the CC part, just BCC, if you're going to send anything. And if you can't make it to a committee meeting, just tell the president or the committee chair. Don't tell the whole board. That's all. That's the reason I was sending that email. Another thing I'm just going to follow up on is, I think one thing I definitely mentioned, the conversation of minutes. I definitely know that if the board would like the information for the vendor for the minute taker, just providing it. And it's one of those things where the minimum for providing minutes is more like who's present, and it's in the bunk policy, who's present, voting, and as Mr. Previn had mentioned, just like showing the voting pattern. That's why we're asking for the minutes, or stakeholders are asking for it, so we're just trying to be of assistance as we can. Want to talk about elections, as candidate filing begins on January 31st. How can I be of assistance to Studio City to make sure that we can increase participation? Do you need my help or some of our department staff to be with you in an event so we can help flyer and get more candidates to sign up? If there's a recommendation where we want to have the location for have candidates to sign up, I'm willing to show up, bring my laptop, bring a tablet. We want to see if we can get as many candidates to participate as much as we can. I hope some of our staff members are doing outreach on multiple levels, so there'll be Facebook ads throughout the city. In addition, we were on the local news, Spectrum One's new local news channel. Our colleague, Steve, was on TV. So we're going to try and do diligence in trying to do outreach. And so in the month of February, how do we collaborate to make sure that there is participation for stakeholders to sign up? And we want to be helpful in doing outreach even after the candidates sign up. I'm going to send an email about the election manual. I definitely know we have the manual is finally on the city clerk's website, but I'll send it to you so you can have it with you. I think it definitely talks about sort of several issues that were brought to my attention. We want to make sure that it just kind of provides a clear guideline in regards to candidate information. This was brought up in my board meeting last night, Greater Toluca Lake. They asked a question about candidate information about CPRA. As you may know how the California Request Act, if there is a request for that, the city clerk will provide just very generic email. They will not provide personal information in regards to the candidate's mailing address, telephone number, even picture. So those are some of the things the manual does, sort of give a clarification. Because I know several folks have said they're a little concerned that if there's a CPRA that goes around, is your information going to become public? And the manual does clarify, and the answer is no. The manual is definitely, it's 26 pages, so if you want to take a stab at it, I'll send it to you. If anybody has any highlight, something to bring to my attention, please let me know, so at least we can try to make sure that these answers that are provided in regards to that. I think we want to just make sure that we're helpful in every shape or form. And I think that's just my goal for the next month, be helpful in us doing outreach. And wherever I'm needed, I'll be there. I hope it just doesn't rain though. Just not a fan of the rain. Thank you.
Yes, Peter.
Quickly, Gibson, a serial meeting, if one board member says, I'm not going to be able to make a meeting, and they CC the entire board, I don't believe that's considered serial communication.
I think it's a big.
That is a serial communication, because,
There's no board action.
but it's still it's still, like, there's a possibility of getting a response back.
But that, I don't,
So the recommendation to avoid that is either BCC the whole board.
right, but that's not going to, there's no action being discussed.
But-
The public is being,
But I think the recommendation to avoid that issue,
but it really isn't the serial meeting.
it's still serial communication, because based off the assessment of the city attorney's office, that's the guideline we're going with. And what we're trying to do is just mitigate any concern for that. So the goal is to make sure that the city attorney doesn't get involved again. Let's just inform the president. Start with the president or the committee chair, and then just to avoid any issue.
I have a question.
No, he's not on the agenda. We're not taking comments.
Okay.
You took one from Peter Cole, that's discrimination.
Yes,
Yes, it is.
yes, Richard.
Last time around.
How down? How
the,
down? Yes.
Last time around, the city clerk changed the definition for the at-large seat and made it part of the requirement that you had to prove you lived inside the boundaries of the neighborhood council. That's different from what our bylaws were, and the city clerk said, we don't care, we have the authority. I saw at the bank meeting last week that the election sheet that the city clerk, it was handed out by Semi after the city clerk left, has the same requirement for the at-large seat. So I will email you and the city clerk lady about that, but that needs to change because it changes the requirements for the at-large seat here, and, you know, why do we have bylaws that we don't follow? Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, we're going to go on to number 8, land use. Denise, take it away.
Okay. Abbreviation. These are, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council supports DIR 2018-51660-SPP-MSP for 11538 West Donna Pepino Place in Studio City. They have, oh, that would be true. Okay, I think everybody can hear me now. Rearrange everything. This is, they're having one mother-in-law move in, and they're changing their current garage to a living quarters, and they're putting a garage on the other side of the house, about where the kitchen is, all in compliance with the Mulholland specific plan and all of that. They've been given the okay. It's going to make, instead of, an L, it's going to be a C. It's in keeping with the houses in the area, but it's not a big change, and there should be no problem with it. The board, the Land Use Committee voted in favor of it. Any questions?
No.
Was there any opposition to this?
No.
Public comment? Richard?
Yeah, I'd just like to say very quickly, this comment is for A, B, and D. I reserve my right to comment separately on 8C. I support these motions because they have been reviewed by the Neighborhood Council, the Land Use Committee. The appropriate design review action has been taken, and it's refreshing to see land use back doing what it's supposed to do instead of just letting things go down the road without any oversight. So I support all 8A, 8B, and 8B.
Okay. Barry?
Oh, pass.
Okay. Anyone on the board? Should we vote on this?
Yep.
All in favor? That's unanimous. Where's Richard?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, Denise, take it away.
Okay, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council supports DIR-2018-5847-DRB-SPP-MSP for 12899 Mulholland Drive. It's a two-story, single-family dwelling. It's going to change a little bit of the floor plan, but they're adding essentially a two-car garage to a three-car garage, and they're going to put a second floor on. It met with the Mulholland specific plan, and it passed You cannot see the project from Mulholland. And there was no problem with the Land Use Committee. It was a unanimous.
So no opposition?
No opposition.
Barry, do you have anyone on board?
No.
Just to clarify, it did pass the Mulholland
Yes,
specific plan?
it passed Mulholland.
So they all
We-
did?
Yeah, they all did.
Yeah, just, what is the thinking behind reviewing those projects which are also reviewed by the Design Review Board? And is 8A and 8B have the addendum with this incredible list of people to send? What does that mean?
Oh, that's not for that one, sorry. That's for
Yeah,
transportation.
that's not me.
Oh, wait.
They got moved around,
What
but
is it supposed to be?
transportation.
Oh, okay, all right, well, that makes much more.
I have no
that makes
idea.
much more sense.
15, as things got moved around, the numbers changed.
So all in favor of this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to abstain from it, because it's.
Yeah, I'm going to abstain too.
Eric, you're abstaining?
Yeah, on B.
I put my hand up to abstain.
Okay.
Please.
We're going to go to D because C is not a dwelling area. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council supports DIR-2018-6282-DRB-SPP-MSP for 8225 West Mulholland Drive. It's a complete, it says complete exterior and interior renovation. It is only an interior renovation, has nothing to do with the exterior of the house. Yeah, and they're changing a little bit, yeah, they're changing a little bit, and this house is the same, the roof is the same, except the material on the roof is different, and they've changed the entire interior. They also went to a variety of different places. We had a gentleman came by and explained everything to us, what was happening, because this was a little bit, we were trying to figure out what they did to the exterior, but we couldn't find it. So they explained it to it is basically changing the color of the roof, the texture of the roof, and redoing the interior of the roof. It was no
No opposition?
no opposition.
And this definitely passed the Mulholland
Yes,
specific plan?
it did.
Because they're sticklers about the
I know.
whole roof.
They did.
Color, texture.
Yep. They,
It's an uphill slope, and you can see one little corner of the roof. It's not like a down.
yeah, it's,
Not in the view shed
As long
at
as
all.
it passed by.
yeah, you would have to go as you were driving by.
Anyway, the house hasn't
A
been
drone,
updated in about
let's do it.
40 years.
Yeah, so it wasn't a good improvement.
Do you have any- anyone? Mr. Niederberg?
Just want to mention this, the lots are 125,000 square feet is the main lot. And you have
Gigantic.
supplemental land behind it, all same owner, 144,000 square feet.
Right.
So it's really a small,
What's the setback on it?
3,121 feet house in a very large lot.
There's no problem.
Good to vote on it?
Yep.
Yeah, all in favor? Okay.
Okay, we're going to go back to C. I don't know
You're
how
gonna
many.
go back to C?
We'll go back to C. The restaurant beverage program ordinance. It is a new thing. They're trying to make it easier for a small restaurant to add a bar or they want to streamline it. You can't.
They as in the city?
City.
Okay.
The city wants to streamline this. There is, it's not, a restaurant with a current bar is not part of this. These are small restaurants. If you want to add a bar, if you get a restaurant, if you don't have a bar, you're dying. So they want to make it a bit more streamlined to get the ability, to have a bar at a small establishment, and that's all this is. A lot of words, but we feel that they need to. The council district, they don't want to tell anybody that this is happening until after the deed is done. So we feel the council district offices and the neighborhood councils will be notified within 5 business days of any application under this program, so they may furnish any relevant comments concerns, or issues said applicant or applicants may raise to the department for consideration during its approval process, and within 45 days, business days of the notification. But the city wants to be able to arbitrarily make these decisions without any input from the councilman or the stakeholders in the area, which would be us. They have to come to us, and we get to have the people know what's going on. We also feel that the enforcement of this program must be provided by the relevant department providing sufficient number of personnel specifically trained on the program with citation and enforcement powers throughout the city, so as to provide enforcement. They say, oh, well, we're going to do something to make sure, but they don't say how. Who's going to enforce it? How are you going to enforce it? And if you're going to enforce it, you have to be able to have citation powers. You just can't go in and go, neener, don't do that. So we said the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council supports the creation and adoption of the proposed restaurant beverage program ordinance with those following conditions. You have to tell us it's going to occur. If somebody's applied for it, so we have time to get people's input and get back to them, and we have to have an enforcement program in place prior to this program going into effect.
We're going to start public comments on this, Barry.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent motion, specifically with the addition of number 1 and number 2. There's so many times when the city creates something new and there's no enforcement mechanism. So, why do it in the first place? So I think asking for that is wonderful, and also the notification of the council office and the neighborhood councils.
Thank you. Richard Adams.
Yeah, I forgot the thing. What Barry said, there was a long presentation of this at bank. A lot of questions were raised. Initially, the way the program was designed is they would just issue the permit and tell you about it after the fact. And everybody had the same problem. This will not be a veto vote. The board will be advisory like it is with everything else with the city. But particularly, and this is not to open a bar or put a bar into your restaurant. It's for restaurants that are open from certain hours, not 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. They have to have over 50% food service. It just allows them to add either beer and wine or all beverages to their license without going through the 6 months of what year-long, incredibly expensive process. So with the addition, if we can get them to agree to it, of allowing us to at least have feedback, and the city council office to have feedback, and to know about these things beforehand, it's a good program. I've talked to restaurant owners locally that I interact with anyway, that have other restaurants in LA that they've got liquor licenses for, and they think this is a godsend and a brilliant idea. So with one modification, it should work for everybody. So please pass it on.
Yep.
Yeah, whereas I think it's a commendable idea to notify neighborhood councils when alcohol permits are pulled, this does not feel like a coherent, at the moment. I mean, I'm sure that, by the way, there is a case file where there's an actual, but the nitty-gritty that you just mentioned, Mr. Adams, which sounded important, I personally would like to review as well, because I just think, for example, if the neighborhood council is notified that somebody is moving forward with, then what do we do? And we can't move so quickly. So I don't want to stick ourselves in the situation where we're an obstacle and we're not even really, so I do think it's a good area, but maybe we could get the full motion, because this also is attached, and I don't know if this may be a clerical problem, to the motion doesn't seem like it seems like it's related to Mulholland Drive as opposed to the beverage thing. So I just think that it's a good area for further review, and if there's nothing urgent on it, that would be my recommendation. Thank you.
Heidi, we're not going to.
No, nothing.
Teresa?
No.
All right. No. I got a quick question. So,
There's a hearing in mid-January that passes in February.
Okay.
so this is basically the from what I've gathered from this, it's a way to streamline restaurants being able to get a liquor license.
Yeah.
But then our amendment is basically saying, we agree they should be streamlined, but we should add more time to it, right?
Well, it's not really asking for more time. We want, if you go in today and apply, that we should find out within 5 days of your application, so we have time to get it on a meeting agenda and have people's input on it, and then get back to them. That's all we're asking. The 45 days are theirs, and we just, took what they said and said, look, it's really nice, but let us know. You have to let us know within 5 days of you walking in and asking for that license, so we have time to actually put it on an agenda and talk about it.
Okay. Richard?
But is it otherwise, there is some notification built into the present ordinance, no. So
No.
it's essentially creating a by right process that does not create a condition that would otherwise come to the neighborhood council. We're saying bring it to the council, so it is taking a streamlined process and de-streamlining
Well,
in some way.
not really. It takes them, it's like, it takes them a while to go through all it and get all of their paperwork together and get everything done.
Sure.
And it's like, if you're gonna pull a license, wouldn't everybody here like to know that somebody else is pulling a liquor license? Everybody complains, well, there's too many liquor licenses, like what's too many? But it gives us time to say, hey, this place has got a lot of rowdies in there, and you add more liquor, add liquor to it, now it's gonna be really crazy. That's kind of what we're looking at. We don't want to
That's
tell
that
them they
rip joint that
can't.
you're
Yeah,
talking
we
about,
don't want
right?
to tell them they can't have the license. We just want to say, let us know.
Yeah, okay, I understand.
Keith?
No comment.
Alex?
Fine. Yeah, support this.
Yeah. Lisa?
I'm good. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah.
My comment is, remember, this is only for the conditional use permit by the city. The state of California still have to issue or not issue the actual alcohol beverage license. It's only for the city's conditional permit to use for this particular property to have this license, but the license comes from the state. So it doesn't really change the state part at all.
But it's still a conditional use application, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else have anything, or should we vote on this?
Vote.
All in favor?
All in favor of liquor?
Eric, you're opposed or abstaining?
Opposed.
Cheers.
You're opposed?
Crazy people.
Okay. Craig? It's your second time.
He's wearing skates.
First, I just want to give a crime update. I shared this at the last public safety meeting. Now, this is a full year of North Hollywood division. So it's 2017 full year compared to 2018. There have been some improvements, and then there's one big negative. Give me 1 second. It always takes me a second. Grand theft auto is down 7.3%. Robberies from vehicles down 3.6%. Burglaries only saw a 0.2% uptick. Thefts were only up 0.9%. The troubling part for North Hollywood division, and this is the question I submitted. I'm hoping, I guess what Jessica alluded to, that she will ask Michael Moore, or Councilman will ask Michael Moore Thursday night, is that citywide violent crime is down 4%, and that is something that they were really touting at the end of December in articles, and that's great, down 4%. However, in North Hollywood, it is up 5.1%. That's a pretty big swing. So, FYI. And then moving on to this motion. So, like I said a few moments ago, I've been banging. What? What?
Never miss you.
Miss you too. Like I said, we all know, I've been banging my head with police patrol, blah, blah, blah. Looks like we'll get a little bit, so good. So, but now it was time to shift the conversation from patrol to what is the root of this issue? And in my opinion, from what I've observed, from what I've seen, from what we talked about in our last public safety meeting. I mean, it all roads lead back to mental health crisis that we're facing. So the following, we spent a lot of time on tweaking this motion in committee. I'll present it here today. I think we just, as a board, I think we continue to, I like to think, set some sort of benchmark and raise the concerns and start at least the discussion with our city leaders. So I'll read the motion 9A. The state of California, including the city of Los Angeles, is facing a mental health crisis of epic proportions. This public safety issue exists both in the shadows, unseen inside the homes within our community, and also extends quite visibly onto our local streets. The Studio City Neighborhood Council asks our city and state officials to immediately convey what is being done to address the current mental health epidemic. In addition, to please share the status on current laws, including the Lanterman-Petrus Short Act. Councilman Kokorin referred to that when he was here speaking. Provide detailed reports where funding is currently allocated, seek community input, and enact laws to take emergency action to improve the situation that we are facing. As we begin 2019, we strongly request that the issue of mental health becomes a top agenda item for lawmakers. Furthermore, the trifecta of Prop 57, AB 109, and Prop 47, which adversely change our state's approach to crime, punishment, drug, and mental health care, needs a careful examination and reform.
We're going to open this up. Barry? Michael?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thought you were going to try the last name.
I gave it a shot that one time and I failed, so I'm going to move on.
It's all good. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you to Craig as well. I think he's done a wonderful job and led the committee extremely well as well. I have seen personal changes in my neck of the woods in Studio City, so thank you. As regards to this, everyone here at some point or another has depression as well, and as it applies to the homeless out there, we know that there is a problem with it. And I think that it's a nice shift to go from how we can physically tone things down into how we can actually help as well with mental health. It's a good way to get the communication or the talk started. There is something coming up in 2020. It didn't make the 2018 ballots. Not necessarily going to mention it, but it is about 57, 80, 109, and 47, pulling some sections of it back. So as we come closer to 2020, maybe you guys change, hopefully you guys all stay, with the current election, but maybe the Studio City Neighborhood Council needs to start wrapping his head around if they will support or not something like sections of 57, 109, and 47, which will show up on the ballot in 2020. What your opinion is on that? Anyways, I think it's a great talk. I'm going to switch to mental health, and I support Craig in this motion.
Thank you. Richard Adams?
Yeah, I'd like to proudly say that I did not vote for 47 or 57, nor any of the legislators that passed AB 109. We might try lithium and bottled water and hand that out to the vagrants. And could you give me the 30-second Cliff Notes version of the Letterman-Tetris Short Act? Because I'm sure I'm not the only person who doesn't recognize that off the top of their head.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about it, and Michael and Patrice refresh, maybe collectively we could, what it seems to be is that, and Councilman Krikorian referred to it when he was speaking here, that they need to take a closer look at it. And I think it dates back to the 1970s, where that shift was from placing those who need mental health care into facilities, and then taking that away, which allowed, at least in my interpretation, more mental health, wandering the streets and no place for them. So it's taking a closer look at the act. There was a link to language in the motion.
Board members, Eric, anything to add on this?
Yeah, I think it's a great area to think about learning and being more informed about the mental health components, and I think that's a good instinct. So I would be happy to participate in that effort. I speak to the people at the county, including the Jonathan Sharon, who's the head of mental health there, and I mentioned that we were talking about that in Studio City, and he would be happy to come, he said, so that would be great.
Heidi?
Just real quick, first of all, I think it's great that we're separating mental health issues and homelessness, because they're vastly different. I mean, they're both homeless, but, you know, the homeless that don't want to be homeless and want help. I think the majority of our problem is over on the other side of the mental illness. What about the, I'm all for it, by the way, but is there in here, what about the lawsuit, though, that was filed with the ACLU about how there has to be a certain amount of beds before they could do anything? There has to be a certain amount of ratio of beds to homelessness or something? What about that?
Yeah, in committee, we did talk about the ACLU, and we even considered, you know, having them as a possible speaker at a committee meeting. We wanted this first motion to have be in a broader sense.
That's fine.
And then, you know, more of a catch-all, and then drilling down on specific topics.
Okay.
So that's how we looked at it.
Yeah, okay.
Patrice?
I support it.
Brian?
In order to support, I think it's great to shift to mental health. To support it, though, you're also making a judgment call on Prop 57, AB 109, and Prop 47?
It is attached to this motion, it is included. I think it does tie together. If you look at the language of Prop 57, AB 109, and Prop 47, there is references to mental health in each of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was attached.
So are we commenting on just the parts of those three things that deal with mental health, or?
Again, this was a first motion as a overall statement, and then moving forward to take a closer look. This is a bird's eye, and then drilling down
Right.
on each of the individual problems.
And like you said, this is more broad. This doesn't really have to do with homelessness so much.
I don't believe I
Specifically.
used the word homelessness.
Right, okay. No, I'm just making sure because of the comment. Great.
Very small.
We did spend a lot of time on the language, and we take
I
all
can
your
tell you,
previous
yeah,
comments.
yeah.
You know, I think it's a pretty smart way to pick up on what the councilman spoke to us about, talking about, I think one of the areas was defining what constitutes danger to self and others, right? That was one of the things that he said that is something that is put down to the municipal level from the state, and beginning to talk about that issue at a state level and how it affects us locally, I think is smart. I think it's broad. I'm a little too, also, because I'm not familiar with 57, 109, or 47, that it kind of gets me like, well, what don't I know about this that would cost me potential support? But I think overall it's broad, and asking for a sense of participation, a sense of dialogue, a conversation that is smart and that I can support, so.
Keith?
Yeah, I would just offer friendly amendments to, because kind of what Brian was getting at, like, there are, it's aspects of those laws that created some of the uptick in theft crime and stuff like that, from my understanding. But there's also aspects of those laws that, like, change the way, you know, people aren't going to jail because they got, you know, an ounce of weed on them, you know, which is enforced mostly in, like, Black and brown communities. So it's kind of, I don't completely agree that, I wouldn't want to completely get rid of those props. So if you wanted my support on it, maybe just making an amendment that said the trifecta of those laws, some
I'll take out
aspects.
adversely.
Which impacted.
Well, no,
Yes.
which parts.
Portions of
them.
which, exactly, like.
Which parts of them.
Because I agree with you that there are parts of that, the law
But
that.
adversely bumps me too.
Yeah.
But
Adversely.
parts of them did adversely. So maybe just do parts.
Portions of which.
Let's go one at a time.
They did.
Yeah.
We'll tweak
Let's
that
upgrade.
language when we wrap around. I'll make it.
Okay, and just like, in the beginning, I think of epic proportions, instead of that, I would just say, is facing a major mental health crisis, period. Just a suggestion. I just think it sounds better.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for your motion, and I would kind of, it already states that it's going to be under examination and reform, so it's already stated that it's going to be, that we're asking for a review. Adversely change our state's approach to crime. I would just state that I would still say adversely has impacted, possibly, our approach to crime, or adversely,
Which has had adverse impacts.
adverse impact, yeah?
Parts of which.
Which has
Parts
had-
of which had.
Right, okay,
adverse
I see, okay.
Parts of which.
Yeah, this is definitely a necessity because just the city has taken these compounding problems and kind of lumped them all together into a homeless crisis, which is just the easy way to say is, let's try to get these developments made and get these people that are downtrodden into these homes that, we have $2 billion for. This is a great approach, and I think it's great to impress our city to fix this problem.
Andrew?
Good.
Lisa?
I'm good. All has been said. Thank you.
Denise?
Okay, you have two problems with your mental health issue. Oh, first of it, your friends at the ACLU made it impossible to take someone who is having mental issues and hospitalize them without going to court. You can hold them for 72 hours only, okay? That gives it real hard to give somebody enough time and effort to help them. So it's a revolving door. That's one of the biggest problems. Part of the Lanterman issue was when they closed down the hospitals. They just arbitrarily closed them all down. So there's a hodgepodge of places, or hospitals that actually do have a mental health area. And most of them are like 60 beds, maybe 30 beds here. There is no real hospital where all of this is undertaken. They've made a whole lot of strides in how they deal with people, sitting there talking to them, putting them in groups, and medication. I've seen where people come in and we give them medication, and they're good for a month. When they're back coming to visit us in a month in the same condition as when we had them the first time. It's a revolving door, and until somebody actually tackles that problem, puts some effort towards it on whether it's a state level, a federal level, or a grassroots level, there will be no major change, unfortunately. And each one of these propositions has a small area where it deals with mental health, but it doesn't, it doesn't help the process. It kind of hinders the process. So, I mean, it's a good idea. And mental health is something that, we need a lot of. We're not the only people who have homelessness. It's throughout the country. And until something changes on a state and national level, unfortunately, we're still going to have these poor souls wandering around.
Well, we gotta start the dialogue somewhere.
Right.
Richard?
Yeah, it's exceedingly difficult to get a 5150, which is to deal with harm to yourself or others, basically, enforced in Department 95, which is the mental health court for the County of LA on San Fernando Road. Very few people qualify to have their liberty taken away for 72 hours, much less beyond 72 hours, who's going to pay for the rest of their treatment. So that they just aren't being held either 72 hours or for a long period of time. These people are all part of the solution, but they're not the solution at all. There's no place to put these people, and nobody wants to pay even if there was a place to put these people. And of course, the other thing is you just can't get 5150s through Department 95.
Okay, Peter Cole?
So I bumped into this Lanterman Petrich Short Act. I was looking through, I hate sound bites and I hate reading news articles that the title tries to lead you in a direction. So on next door where all the battles I see go on, there was one particular battle that kept blaming Reagan for closing the mental institutions. So I knew there had to be more to it than that. So I looked into it. There was a woman by the name of Eleanor Reese, I believe, who there was a movie made about her. It's called 55 Steps. So for those of you who like, nice fluff to get you started to learn about what things are going on, that's a good way to start. But the ACLU started a lawsuit on her behalf, which changed the laws on how we deal with 5150, 52, 5350, and all that. So what I noticed the beauty of recording all these meetings, I'm forced to listen to them probably a lot more than anyone should. So I focused in on what Kokorian was talking about, and he seemed to be very passionate about changing. There's an amendment currently at the Assembly. It's Assembly Bill AB 2442, which is an amendment to the Lateran-Petras Short Act. So I thought this is a way for the, what I call the NIMBYs and the, you know, the Kumbaya group to find common ground here. Because we know there's all these mentally ill people on the streets. We can't do anything about it until this law is changed. So while I don't want to spend all the money on Measure HHH and all that, I think we need to start at the bottom, and like we have to be able to do something with them first. And I think this is a way that both groups can push for a change with our council office, because he's behind it, sees the progress.
When you say "we," you mean the city of LA?
City of LA.
The ACLU is the city of LA, right? It sued the city of LA. I'm just wondering why Burbank, Glendale, Beverly Hills does not have people shooting up on the sidewalks. So is it the city of LA?
They're shooting up on the sidewalks, and then there's people that are out of control. So
well, that's what I mean.
Maybe Eric can speak to that. I don't really.
But, well, you said we, that's why we, that lawsuit, so is we the city?
Yeah, no, we're gonna have one more
sorry.
comment from Mr. Pistilli.
Briefly, Heidi, I believe either H or Triple H takes care of, there was a lawsuit back in the day with the ACLU.
Oh, that's a different lawsuit.
Yeah, there was
Oh,
something, I
okay.
had it during one of the other meetings, but I kind of forget it now, but there's a reason to answer your question.
Okay.
As far as everything else, the ACLU, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but this is also accountability, because everything that we hear is about housing, housing, housing.
Right.
So where is the money being allotted for mental health? Because buildings, where are the buildings, where are the seats,
Yeah,
where are the
it is.
chairs? I mean, that's what I think this helps open up,
Yeah.
is where folks are.
All right, can we call the question, do we have an amendment, an
Yeah,
acceptable
I have
amendment on the
two
table?
suggestions based on feedback. The first sentence, the state of California, including the city of Los Angeles, is facing a severe mental health crisis, taking out epic proportions. And then I think we talked about the second thing, third paragraph. Furthermore, the trifecta of Prop 47, parts of which have adversely changed our state's approach to crime.
So Craig, can you just do the exact wording on the last one? Furthermore, the trifecta.
Okay. Furthermore, the trifecta of Prop 57, AB 109, and Prop 47, parts of which have adversely changed our state's approach to crime, punishment, drug, and mental health care needs a careful examination and reform.
And what was the first change? I'm
Brian, is that
sorry.
fit for you?
Yeah,
They took out
No, we called the vote. All in favor?
Okay, hold
The
on.
epic-
All in
Still
favor?
like,
All in favor?
All in
The
favor?
vote got called. We've been on this.
no, this is something different, please.
No? Yes or no?
Slight modification, remember, it's the county, not the city or the state, that takes care of physical and mental health responsibilities. In here, the wording does not include that. Maybe it should include city, county, and state, because the county is, that's their job.
It's a good point.
That is a very good one. Thank you.
So, so the first line will now be the state of California, including the city and county of Los Angeles. Richard, is that good?
Yeah.
Thank you.
First line of the second paragraph, too.
Second paragraph.
Good point.
Wherever you have it.
Yeah. I see.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Got it? Very nice, thank you. Good. Carry it on, please.
Thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Craig. Where are you moving to? I got you. We'll talk.
He doesn't want anyone to know where he's going.
Are you in trouble? Do you have to get out of town?
Okay, number 10, announcement of vacant board seat. Rob Schuler has resigned from the board. On a personal note, I'm very sad about that. It's a real shame. He was a great asset.
What
It's a
happened?
He just got bullied out.
Patrick, point of order. Are you talking about me?
Nope.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Is someone playing violin?
Someone's phone is ringing.
We're being invaded.
By the Swiss?
Yeah.
Rob Schuler has resigned from the board. We are seeking candidates to fill the at-large Studio City stakeholder seat. To qualify to fill this seat, candidates must be a Studio City stakeholder defined by the laws as those who live, work, or own real property in the neighborhood, and also those who declare a stake in the neighborhood as a community interest stakeholder. Defined as a person who affirms a substantial and ongoing participation within the neighborhood council's boundaries and who may be in a community organization such as, but not limited to, educational, nonprofit, and/or religious organizations. Qualified candidates should submit a candidate statement regarding why they would like to serve on the board and declaring their Studio City stakeholder status to board@studiocity.org. We have public comments on this, Barry? Okay, Richard Adams?
I'd like to say that I'm pleased to see this on the agenda. I see the email I sent in work. You have my application for the opening and some of the reasons why. Additional reasons is I provide information, historical and otherwise, to Lannerman, from what was said. It did indeed come out of the abuses of the mental health institutions in California in the 1950s and 60s. And where AB 57 and 47 directly impacted mental health care and stuff in the state is they were sold on the grounds that taking people out of prison for nonviolent crimes and other things would reduce the amount of money spent in prisons. The money would be redirected to mental health and other issues in the community to help get those people back involved and not relapse. We were all stunned and amazed when the savings occurred and the money was not spent the way we were told, which takes me back to why I didn't vote in favor, because they never spend the money they say they're going to save for the bond issue on what happened. That's kind of historical information and background and insight I can bring to the board, among other things. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have anything to say about it?
Yeah.
Well, we sent out a blast. I've already gotten 5 or 6.
So is the
candidates.
plan to consider
month?
them over the next month and then make a
Yeah.
decision? Oh, okay, so that's
We'll
the
do it the
plan.
same way when Brian came on and when Janine
Okay,
came
I just have
on.
one request, if possible,
Yeah.
which is that, but it did say send them to board at, so, but I just think it would be good to have a chance to review the materials, if there are materials submitted for the whole.
I will assure
I think that
you-
our bylaws say it's just you, and last time I thought you were generous in that you wanted it to be the board, which was appropriate, but it would be good to understand what the materials that are submitted are.
It does say it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We can probably just move on.
Yeah.
We're not voting on anything right now. You know, all we're
But I
doing
have a
is
comment.
we just.
Question.
Talking about it.
Are you also going to send out a similar announcement dealing with Greg's seat? So people can basically choose?
We can
No.
do it.
Okay.
I mean, of course I am.
So, but no, what he's saying is, will you do it for the next cycle, so we can have someone in, hopefully, 2 people in on the next meeting?
Or-
Hopefully, yes.
So they
Yeah,
can choose.
okay. Yeah.
That is,
Brandon doesn't
yeah,
comment.
that is what the bylaws say. So by the time Craig has now resigned from the board, we are outside of the 90-day window, where someone doesn't, I think, and I don't know how it works with this close to it, but I think by the next board meeting, we might actually be within the 90-day window. But the resignation happened today, so we'll have to appoint 2 new board members.
Yeah, I didn't know Craig was resigning until everyone else did, so.
That's fine, I'm just letting you know,
Chance to
but-
Go through this yet. Does anyone else have anything on this?
Just quickly, I just wanted to let the record reflect that I'll miss Rob, and I thought that he did a great job, and he took the totally awesome summer fair, like, took charge and just did it, and it's exactly the kind of people that we want, someone who has an idea for something to do and goes for it. And also, Craig, I'm sad to see you go. I know wherever you go, you'll be involved in that community, but we learned a lot from you, and we appreciate it.
And it should be no secret that we need a secretary.
Okay. That's still open to anyone who wants it. All
Can I
right.
make one more comment, just
No, we're
briefly?
going to go on to number 11, selection of.
Are we going to do any
officer-
outreach to the community about these seats? Or do we want to send a blast of some kind? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's been one. There's been,
It was not a broad blast, it was buried in our email, but we could do one, I mean, if we want, it's no big deal. I just thought it would be a good idea to let the people know in our community that the seats are available if we're going to try to fill them.
right, we're going to move on to number 11, selection of officer position vice president. Pursuant to the bylaws, we need to select a vice president.
Looking for volunteers or
I'm
nominations?
looking around for anything. Volunteers, nominations.
Oh, public comments?
Okay, public comments, Richard Adams, can you start the clock?
It's never been done before, but I'd like to nominate Brian Carroll if he takes the position. I think he'd be awesome at it.
What do you think, Brian?
No. Thank you, I appreciate that, but, yeah. I have someone to nominate.
Who would you like to nominate?
Heidi McKay.
I'm gonna let everyone in on a dark little secret. Vice President doesn't really do much. You sit up here, you get on the list for the universal parties and all the rest, and run the timer. And outside of.
Can I do it from here?
No, you have to sit right here.
So you're saying if they don't do much, not having one is not necessarily.
Fine, we won't have one. Hold on, Peter Cole?
Couldn't the vice president choose to be more involved if they wanted to?
Absolutely, yeah. It's just like in the actual like description of the thing, I mean, it's literally if the president's not here, you run the meeting. And that's pretty much it. So Brian, I don't know, it seems like a great.
You're not resign as treasurer and.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You can still be a part of committee
Can't do
meetings.
it?
Vice president can't, president can't.
Wait, say those words again?
I can't, the president can't be part of.
Vice president can?
Yeah. When I was vice president, I was chairman of the budget.
I see. I will put
You're
back
welcome.
into consideration if that's what it is. But I also want someone else to run as well,
All right.
under condition.
You'll run? Okay. Well, this is great.
Now it's become exciting.
Yeah. Do either of you want to?
Arm wrestle?
Make
You
the platform
guys
speech.
vote. Either one, I think Brian would be great, so.
I think she'd be great. I nominated her.
And I nominate Brian.
This is tough.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you know what? Should you two leave for a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. Soon as they're gone, I can't say so.
You have to come back.
The record will reflect it, they left the room.
Okay, let's talk.
I think it's on video, right?
Yeah, it's on video anyways.
Oh,
I don't know.
secret here.
Does anyone have anything to add, or do you guys just want to do a vote on? Let's just vote. Who wants Brian?
I mean, I want both.
I do
so-
too.
Yeah, no, so do I.
Wait a minute, wait a
Why
minute. Can we
don't
vote
you
for
choose?
both? Let me make a
Who
point.
would you like to have as your vice president?
It would,
But we have to.
discussion, can we have discussion or
Yeah, we'll
no?
have discussion, sure.
I'm going to throw in something real quick. And Heidi is great. I appreciate everything that Heidi does. I have to say that since Brian's been on the board, he's been the most active person I think that we've ever had. Spends more time than I think a lot of the rest of the board. And I'm just going to put that out there. Peter?
I know it's on video, I'm gonna be in big trouble because I like Heidi a lot. I think what I'd like to see, and I've always hoped when you came on board, that new, younger, fresher faces would come in who weren't involved in politics. And, you know, not that Heidi's part of the old regime, but, you know, it's like, I really like that what Brian brought forth. And, I mean, I've dumped all kinds of stuff on him these days.
He really does. He takes whatever you, yes, Barry?
I just was going to point out, there's only 4 meetings left.
Yeah. And no universal parties, I believe. I think they're done for the year. Yeah.
But it isn't elected and not an appointed.
Patrick,
We
are
do
you
need to
planning on
vote
going
on it.
anywhere? 4 months? Come on.
Probably not.
Okay.
You never know. Okay, let's just, let's vote. Who's in favor of Brian? Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I hate to say, I think it's.
Brian it is.
So
All
do-
right, let's go.
We need to
Let's
vote on it.
congratulate
It says.
Well, let's note the
so
vote
you
so that we don't get in trouble. What is the
majority
vote?
To complete that term.
Take the vote.
You just did.
No, I know we did, but that's what I'm saying. It's not.
Okay, so let's do it again. All in favor of Brian? Denise, are you voting for Patrice, or for Heidi?
I'll vote for Heidi.
You're voting for Heidi?
I'll vote for Heidi.
Okay.
Just a vote. Heidi needs a vote.
You know what? Put me down for Heidi too, please.
Yes, Heidi needs a vote.
Heidi's voting.
Alex, do you want to change?
Sure.
It starts the wave and everyone goes.
We like Heidi.
Yeah, we're good.
It's not like we don't like Heidi.
Yeah.
If you like Beatty, you'll vote for
Make it
Brian.
more even, make it more even.
All right.
Make it close.
If you like Heidi, you'll vote for Brian.
We had 3 votes, it was so close.
Brian is vice president.
Brian, as long as you still want it, you're going to be vice president, okay?
Heidi's like, yay.
And to point out, there is only 4 meetings left, and
Yeah.
I think I'll be,
And you get to pick up the
Patrick committed
food.
not to miss any of it.
yeah.
Well, I get out of work at 7, so that may be my first active duty, to appoint someone to do that for me.
Did you get out of work for you?
To go to work. I'll pick up the food if someone will do my job for me.
Okay, Mr. Eric Previn, why don't you take it away on number 12?
Sure. This was the proposal that we had to simplify the way we vote, and I think that there's a motion to simply ask the question of the powers that be, and, get a straight answer. And hopefully we can do that. I know that we have talked to, the line people, but it's really a question of the leadership at City Hall to see if they would give us an opportunity to perform a pilot. Maybe Brian wants to talk about the motion.
Yeah, I can read the
Sure.
motion text, as also the now Vice President and as well as Election Chair. So this is motion. Pending substantiation of the so-called bylaw amendment moratorium, we would like to put forward the 10-5 election program as a one-off pilot for the upcoming May 16th, 2019 Neighborhood Council election. By January 31st, 2019, all of the Region 4 neighborhood councils, including the Studio City Neighborhood Council, will be open for candidate registration. Therefore, by that date, we, the SCNC, would request that the City Council and Mayor consider granting our Neighborhood Council the opportunity to test this program. We feel that this would be a more equitable solution for our constituents and members, and formally request your serious consideration and timely response.
So it's a respectful request, and if they say no, we'll just have to adopt and go back to the, what we did last time, which is of course not fun, but that's what we'll do. And if they accept, we'll get the news somehow, and they'll let us do it on a trial basis. So if the board supports it, we could submit a letter to the powers that be requesting such.
Yeah. Let's go to public comment on it. Barry?
Who could you submit this to?
The mayor, the city council, and the clerk.
But isn't it Dunn that would have to decide?
And done. We can add done. Good point. But it's the city clerk that runs the elections, and the mayor, the done is basically under the umbrella of the mayor and the council. So they've said,
Richard?
Yeah, by all means, you want to send a letter, send a letter. The rules are quite clear. They've been in place for years. Bylaws are frozen well out ahead of time, I think it's a year, because it takes the city that long and it's lightning speed to go through all the approval process and tell people yes, the bylaws have changed. The other reason they freeze them is so you don't have people pulling last-minute changes to election statuses, membership lists, and all the other things that define seats, trying to gain an advantage for the incumbents. The city put this in place years ago. It's publicly announced. You can ask all the questions you're going to want to get. But I think even Gibson can tell you that you're going to be told, no, this is this way, and this is the reason it is why it's way. So it is really unseemly to make changes like this last minute, especially with the board elections only months away. Things like this need to be considered after the new board is elected and seated, and you have a full cycle. So it passes a smell test to the stakeholders, and you're within the city guidelines, and you're not spinning your wheels.
Cool.
I agree.
Eric?
what about, I made my comment. I appreciate the comment. I would say it's worth asking for, and, it's a pilot. They do pilots all the time that say without change. This would be deferring the change of the bylaws, just voting this way on a one-off basis.
Gibson? Yeah.
Just want to reiterate this, no changes will be accepted at the moment when it comes to bylaw amendments. And I just want to make sure that we're on the same page about that. Thank you very much.
Null and void.
Pilot program.
Anyone else? you have something?
Yeah, again, I just want to reemphasize that this is not a change to the bylaws. This is a one-off pilot program for this election cycle specifically, as well as I'm still unclear where the public announcement or public record exists of a current bylaw moratorium.
And that's why you reference pending
Right.
substantiation of the so-called.
Exactly. Is there any record of that existing currently in
I
place?
don't, that's not my.
I'm gonna make a quick comment on this. I support this, and I'm with you on voting for this, even if it is just, shot in the dark, that's not gonna pass. Because our current makeup is so absurd. The renter, homeowner, left hand, right hand, whatever, it's very strange. Mr. Welch?
Yeah, I mean, right, and we're saying that we're gonna issue this, and then if we don't hear anything by January 31st, we're gonna proceed, but we're not, there are certain things we can't really proceed with until that date, if that's what we ask for, even if we don't expect any response, right? Well, so for certain things pertaining to candidate outreach for the elections, right?
Well, we're still going to have candidates for the election, whether they're segmented into 700 categories or two. But certainly we can still recruit, we can still do everything. The minutia of what one defines himself as a candidate, I don't think is as pressing. Certainly they could know about it, we can inform the people running. But yeah, we are asking for a response to this, whether it's a yes or no. Come the 31st, yeah, it will default by necessity to.
In a way, what I'm saying is, in a way, the biggest impact potentially of this motion is on our own process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say if I know when I ran, it was not clear to me that you had to go for those certain voters. And I found that out very last minute. And so I just want to, this is not really, I support this, but when we do advertise to our stakeholders saying we want you to run, we need to beat people over the head with that to make sure that they understand, what seat they're qualifying for and then what voters they need to go after to get.
Absolutely. No one can, and I'll say this too, no one can even sign up until the 31st for the candidates. So once that happens, then yeah, the information will be provided.
Yeah, no, I like the idea, but in spirit, but, like I said, the bylaws are for that reason, so I have to support what the bylaws are, not for this specific deal, but for future, just to keep the integrity of what the bylaws say.
Pilot.
Lisa?
I concur with that, but not opposed.
Yeah, having, all the seats anybody can vote is a nice, it's a nice idea. But at this point, our bylaws have been frozen for almost a year. And the problem is, in truth, yes, it's getting anything through the city is a snail. It's got to go to Dunn. Everybody at Dunn's got to look at it. Then it goes to the city attorney, and the city attorney looks at it. We all know what happens when it gets to the city attorney. Then it goes to Bonk, and then Bonk has to look at it. By the time these people, so you might get through one, but you're not going to get through all three.
Let's try for one.
I agree. Yeah, I think you can have everything you want. However, I'm virtually certain that the city attorney's office will not issue the hours for one of their city attorney assigned to neighborhood councils to look at it. I'm pretty sure that their hours are already scheduled for other things and will not be issued the code for the hours on this. So I think it's a problem right there. I don't mind asking if you want, but I don't think it's gonna do any good. I don't wanna have us look stupid or look like we're uppity by doing this.
Okay. Peter Gold?
One of the things I've learned by being involved in this process is do not take what somebody from Dunn says as the gospel. Challenge them and ask them, where does it say that? Show me, chapter and verse. So I'm curious, where does it say?
We've asked many times.
Really?
Yeah, we've asked many times.
I've just heard an explanation for serial communications, it doesn't seem to jive with,
That's true.
with what the law is. And now it's, well, the city attorney said so. So, you know, this is not kosher here. So I'd like to know what the real answer is.
All right, we're going to vote on this now. All in favor of motion 12?
I'll vote for the laboratory too.
Hold on, we got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Again, for a pilot, this is not to change our bylaws, you know that, right?
All opposed?
So
All
there's-
those?
I abstain.
There's no opposition, just
Yeah,
abstain.
we're staying.
So what's the count?
Some difference.
No, the idea is great.
What's the count, Alan? I mean,
It's the 4, Lisa, you abstain, Denise, you abstain?
the old board.
Abstain.
Abstain, and everyone else.
What's the vote count?
So what is the numbers? Just so-
4 again is one.
That's it.
So 8-4?
What do you guys?
And she's a voter now.
I just had-
Right.
9-4. And 4 abstentions, not no. Jot that down. Do you have a
All
number?
right, 13, Brian Carroll, take it away.
All right, so just a initial update. So we are having an election on May 16th. And I do encourage everyone who wants to run for a seat on this council, whether, again, whether we have 1,000 candidates for different categories or 2 different categories for candidates. But yeah, the registration is going to be open on January 31st. There will be instructional things coming out in terms of how to do this, what's the best way forward to encourage people to run. If anyone has any questions about running, I'd like to be able to assist any candidates with elections@studiocitync.org is the email address set up for that. As well, I just want to make everyone know I will be on the ballot as well, and I would like to just put forward any sort of suspicion that there might be a conflict of interest or that I might do something to hinder the election process. I want that to be known, and I want it to be public, because I don't want any just suspicion that anything could be, you know. I took this job in light of the fact that there didn't seem to be anyone else who would. So obviously, I would love for someone else to run this election
Which
other than
seat are
me.
you running for?
I'm going to be running for, well, here's the thing. If we are unable to do a pilot program one-off election that segments our things into stakeholders and residents, in that scenario, I'll be a resident. In the current, and if it's unchanged, I'll be a residential renter seat. So, but yeah, more information will come out about that in the time ahead. In the meantime, we just wanted to break down a very quick budget as we've kind of outlined. This does not break down candidate-specific events versus voter-specific events, but I'll just read this now. So, in the interest of transparency, the following budget proposal was discussed in committee and public comment was heard. The committee will update the below estimates with actuals for both candidate outreach and general election outreach as a solid plan emerges. So this is basically just, we're putting together these numbers together. Nothing is really final yet, but we did want to just start notifying the public in terms of where we're thinking about where our up to $9,000 budget could possibly fall into different categories. Within that is the 4 open forums, roughly on average 1 per month, although they may not be scheduled as that. I'm a big believer in Eric Previn's open forums. I think it is one of the greatest things that we have currently that has attracted the involvement and civic engagement of our community. And I think if you're able to get people used to the idea of being active in their community, getting them either then to run for a public seat in local government or vote in a very local election, I think that's just a natural inclination. But I'd rather have engaged voters that are just not looking at one election, but rather civically engaged in the process as well as this board in general. So that's why that's on there. Posters and banners, very good. Candidate flyers, up to $750. Various different kinds of print advertising, whichever form that those might take once they're more concretely. Social media, Facebook and Twitter and all the rest. Promotional video expenses, just to talk about this really quick. As my main career, I'm a motion graphic animator. I will be putting together 2 separate videos, one for candidate outreach and just how to go about this process, as well as another video that promotes the election itself. I want to make these very tailored to Studio City specifically and not in the general forum. I don't think, the problem with engagement on a local level is if you make something too broad that goes to like an entire area like the Valley or Los Angeles, the individual people may not be as engaged in it. By making a studio city specific video for both of those things, I think we can get a lot more engagement. And then just contingency. I want to be able to run this election in a way that, you know, we have a little bit less time right now, but also there's different ways, as social media is a thing and everything, there's creative solutions to problems that we might run into. And I'd like to just have the flexibility and mobility to come up with creative solutions and fund them if need be, without just trying to check off every box of how elections are normally run, which has the risk of having people disengaged. So this is the numbers that we're thinking right now. I'm open to any questions as we move forward.
Yeah, let's get to, we know how it goes. We're to the public comment first. Barry?
I don't have
Richard Adams?
Yeah, glad to see this happening. I'm assuming there'll be additional further details as you solidify things.
Absolutely.
And some of you get the idea that I'm deliberately obstructionist, and I want to see this board function properly. This budget was commented at the budget committee, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that covers that. We have an ad hoc committee. The bylaws specifically state that the ad hoc committee has to have to by official action of either the president or the board. The official action of the board would be a vote to create a committee. All the president has to do is publicly announce that this committee has been formed. If there was an e-blast on it, I didn't see it, that oversight could be corrected right here and now. You could announce the creation of the committee and who's on it, and everything would be oil. But until then, you don't really exist and you can't really bring motions.
You didn't announce?
I'm not responding to him. Anyone? Eric?
Yeah, I just want to make one comment, which is the candidate flyer item of $750. I just want to explain that. The one idea is that we should make it out of our budget, at least the free for people to participate. Because if you also tell people, like regular elections, that in addition to that, you're on your own, I think it's, so the idea here was to do an RFP to a couple of printers or in the neighborhood and provide up to 100 color, statements for people to pass around. If they want to do more, they can go back there and pay 25 cents, seems to be close to the rate. And we're not done yet. We need to get some bids. So I just announced that. If somebody knows, I can forward a template that we could use to have people respond, and then we can just pick one that's close to the bottom and reliable and close. Anyway, I think that making it not onerous and expensive to other people is part of it. Go on.
So this $9,000 budget includes flyers and such for other candidates, outside candidates as well, correct?
Candidates within Studio City.
People who register.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. All candidates who are running
Yes.
for the neighborhood council in Studio City.
Before we get going too much, I'm going to take one more public. Peter?
Slightly off topic, but have you received the new election manual?
Not yet.
And one thing I would request is
Well,
to
he
see.
just announced
Unless-
it earlier.
unless I just got it
He's gonna
here.
get it to us.
He's emailed it.
He just, yeah.
And one thing I would love to see is the changes, if there's like a, what do you call it, a red line, where you can see what was old and what's new, what the changes are, would be great. Specifically with election challenges.
Heidi? Patrice?
So your motion is the board supports future reports and up to $9,000 in election costs.
I'm going to cut you off real quick just because wait, hold on. Just remind everyone, we're not voting on whether or not to approve this 9,000. That's already been approved.
It's already
This is
done.
Brian actually literally just going above and beyond just to show
How
us
it
how
came
he's
out.
broken down.
Well, the committee.
Right.
Yeah.
This is
the-
not
the
singular.
committee To show us
Right.
how that 9,000
How
that's
it
already
came.
been approved
Right.
has been broken down.
And we'll come back again with more
Yeah.
on
So
that.
my point being that, of course, we're going to support future reports, but there's no real motion here that's a different
Nope.
motion. The only thing I would do is say we've got about 3 months between now and the elections. And we talked about this in the Budget Committee meeting. I would propose a motion that says the board authorizes expenditure of up to $3,000 on election assets and outreach between now and the February meeting, and just kind of break that $9,000 into three chunks. Spend $3,000 before the next meeting, and then report on how it's spent, and we're all going to see the results. and away, and away we go. I mean, as a motion, otherwise I don't think there's necessarily a purpose to the motion as it stands.
It's more just like, I think, a vote for support.
Yeah.
We're just,
Because it is
yeah,
that.
it less than an approval of the specific numbers.
But up to 3,000 for February sounds good.
I mean, for the next, we've got.
Well, that's a apples.
The motion was
Yeah, this looks great. Let me know if you need help with anything, Facebook ads or whatever. I'm more than willing to help. And I guess with the forums and the amount of, if we're gonna have, I just had a suggestion, I had mentioned this to you, Eric, I think before, but if we're gonna have different, like debate nights or whatever, in order making, like, instead of having like a really long night with all these different candidates running all these different seats, if we are being forced a hand of like, okay, there's renter seats, perhaps you break up some of the nights for different things, just so that if it's, only 3 hours as opposed to like 5 hours, more people might come and stay and listen to all the candidates. Yeah.
Former committee chair, Alex is Vicky?
No. So to clarify, it's been approved in committee. Are we going to vote as a board, or has it already been?
This has already been voted on.
We've already voted for the $9,000 in the budget, in our original budget approval vote back in.
This is just their committee coming
June.
through and showing us how that 9,000 is proposed to be.
So what's 13A?
That's the question, right.
13, so
It's just telling him.
Yeah. It's telling us, great job.
Yes, you
Sounds
are
good, just
blessing.
keep, yeah.
Restating it with future
It's
reports.
I would say it's a cousin to the motion to approve the minutes. It's something that happens, but we do it anyway.
Well, just my comment, I mean, it all makes sense, I understand it's been approved, but in terms of the percentage of our budget, I just think it's excessive.
I agree, but that's what we did vote on it, or on the 9,000 too. I really,
It'll go
yeah, I mean,
back.
I think we should spend half of that,
Yeah.
if that.
I'd like to see money out of politics.
Well, that's why I was proposed to break it into smaller chunks over the 3 months, so we see how we're going. as we-
Yeah, that's what, this is already been.
That's what Dunn told us.
This has already been voted on, but-
Sure, I understand, but we can still make a motion to authorize it in chunks, right? I mean,
And
that's.
it's up to, it doesn't mean you have to spend.
Yeah, up to
Right.
the key thing there. Lisa?
So I actually don't know if you did publicly
I'll
appoint
talk
Brian.
to, I'll talk to Dunn about that and see if we did or we didn't. I'm pretty sure we did.
Okay.
I
I
think we
kind of thought that you did.
What's the requirement?
To appoint Brian as the ad hoc
And establishing the
committee chair.
Okay, I'll send out an e-blast tomorrow just to,
Perfect.
yep,
Drive it home. Thank
there you
you.
go. Denise?
I agree, say, it's a lot of money, whether we spend it or not, but that's the budget. I have no problems with how they allotted it.
Cool, Mr. Niederberg?
Yeah, I also think it's a lot of money, because of the fact that if you put it in context with other city, government agencies, nonprofits, whatever, basically, spending about, what, a quarter to a fifth of your budget on elections. Can you imagine if the Red Cross did that? You would head for the hills.
They do.
You know,
Yeah, they steal.
No, they don't elect.
They don't elect, they just
And
take
the
the
same
money.
thing, if the total city budget of billions of dollars, they spend a quarter of it on elections, somebody would be very suspicious.
Okay, so let's vote on this. All in favor of 13A?
Oh,
All opposed?
Sussman.
I abstain from it as written because
I guess
there's
it's
no
not
reason.
money, it's not money, so we don't have to do it. I agree. It is money, so we don't have to do it.
Okay, Brian, keep it going on 14.
All right, here we go. So, this is actually something, when I was first appointed here, again, as my job as a designer and animator, without passing judgment on the current logo and branding for Studio City Neighborhood Council, I just did feel, as it was also kind of promised when I pitched my services to the board of how I could be of service in the best way, was to rebrand Studio City Neighborhood Council, and that is now up for vote today. So, I'm going to be walking around and doing this at the same time. The new logo design for Studio City Neighborhood Council is presented like this. They're presented for consideration and adoption, a new logo design and proposed rebranding for the Studio City Neighborhood Council. My motion, I'll get to the motion in a sec. I just want to explain a little bit about what's going on here. Currently, I will say this about the current logo and branding. It does not, I don't feel like it represents who Studio City is as an identity. Hollywood has the Hollywood sign. There's other cities that have very distinct either architectural or geographical identification signifiers for their logo or branding. We have a beautiful building, former theater, that's pretty much in the center of town, that does have Studio City pretty much, signifying who we are. I understand it's a bookstore right now, but it is part of our community. The custom typeface that I'm using for Studio City is lifted directly from that sign, and so this is pretty much who we are. The design on top and bottom are also from that same marquee. Furthermore, however, it does represent the City Hall in terms of what it looks like. Down here, this looks like the LA River. Our board's goal being a conduit between the citizens of Studio City to the City Hall. So that's kind of like an in general, very metaphorical justification for why this design exists the way it does. Other handling and shortening and abbreviations of it exist as well. What I'm asking for is to have this design approved for all future banners and everything moving forward. I'm not asking to replace all of the design overnight for an expense, but as things get replaced, certainly let's use the new branding. So, that being said, motion 14A, to approve the adoption of the new branding design and for said design to serve as the basis for a broader redesigned style guide to represent the visual identity of all Studio City Neighborhood Council properties and materials, including website, agendas, advertising, etc. So what I mean by furthermore, this being the logo, but certainly this design sensibility would then be carried onto various aspects of our future website, of perhaps an icon series that represents all of the different committees within the same style as well. There's a lot of ways we can go about this, especially judging other logos for other neighborhood councils. I feel like we're severely lacking in a sense of identity.
This is very nice.
Public comment, Richard Adams.
A lot of time and effort did go into doing the old one. I wasn't necessarily the most thrilled with it. It does harken back to the days of Republic Theater and everything, when everything in town, TV and otherwise, was shot on film. I think that was the theory behind it, was the historical references. I like your artwork at first pass. I think some of the colors might be, they're kind of, they don't go to the Art Deco neon and stuff. It's not a criticism, it's something that can be worked on. But once again, with the board election coming up in May, a new board being seated in June, I think would be much more appropriate, not to throw away your time, but to give people and the community time to discuss and give input. And then when the new board is seated, whether it's all old people, all new people, or a mix thereof, give that board the chance to, yes, this is the way we want to go because everybody's had a discussion about it. And rather than push this through and then have the new board go, ew. So I think would be much more appropriate and much less, more seemly to give the community time for input and to wait a couple months and vote on this after the election.
Cool, thank you. Eric?
I think it looks great, except I like the black and white, but I do not like the green and the green-blue color. And some time back, there were people on this board that are still here that hated those green colors for something that the Studio City Residents Association wanted to do. And as such, there's a new sign by Ralph's at Campo de Cahuenga in Ventura that's now in brownish tones now as a result of that public outcry. But I don't like that green. I really don't. I like the design and I like the color part of it to have some warmth to it, and that green doesn't warm me up at all. And I agree with what Richard said. I think it's great, but leave it out there for 4 months and let the next board take it up.
Peter?
Can you hold up one of those for a second?
Yep.
Just a comment. And can you turn it around backwards? Flip it around, let me see the back. I would approve that in more than what we have now. This is a great effort. The other one, the other one is dated, it's just like yesterday's news. The only thing, Brian, about the green, if it was your choice, what would you go?
This green.
Okay. I applaud your.
Yes, Victoria?
I love it. I recognized the theater immediately.
Mhm.
That's very nice. I like that it's clean, and I think it really represents modern Studio City. I personally love emerald green. You can't have enough emerald.
Eric?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I like the rationale about connecting Studio City to our place and to the city. I think it works very well, so I would support it. And I think regarding waiting for the next board could definitely weigh in if there is a new board or if it's the same board. But I think time is of the essence, and, you know, change is good for the people. Thank you.
Heidi?
No problem.
So the larger one, it looks like a different green. Is that correct?
There are
is that
two
a little bit
different. Nope, there are two different greens
Okay.
on it. There's a darker one.
It's just because it's larger then.
Well, it's that it's
Things
larger,
look
and also
different.
there's a, I mean, I can be a design geek about this all night. When you invert colors, things will look either darker on the inverse. It will also look slightly thicker when it's in a lighter color on dark.
Okay.
I can just come with design,
So-
optical illusions.
So are you going to be using the one with the white background or the black background?
Predominantly,
Or the
I'd like to
predominantly
do,
this?
yes.
Okay, cool.
Robert?
That's great.
I think it's beautiful.
Yep.
Well done, and I think that it is simple and elegant, and everything below the GP, and you can work on any color scheme. Well
Need a
done.
change.
I love it, and I agree that it's instantly, the second you held it up, I was like, oh, that's the bookstore, that used to be the theater. It's great, and the idea that we should wait for the next board.
Why?
What?
Can I make a quick comment about that?
Yeah,
They can pass their own logo.
exactly, if they want to redo the logo,
No,
yeah.
but I mean, we do have a certain equity, right, in the current logo, and we are going into an election cycle, and people are gonna, I don't know whether there's a possibility for confusion when people were used to seeing the flying film reel see this and the elections for this and don't.
It says
put
Studio City.
That they're, I mean, I don't know what the chances is.
Well, I'll say this, one of the reasons why I wanted to put forward this right now is because I want this to be implicated in the design for the election as
I
well.
mean, I think,
Yeah.
you know, but there have been some strong pieces that have been done for the fora and other things that are using that. So, I don't know, I mean, just,
Yeah, fair enough.
you know, there's equity in the brand, and we are changing horses kind of at the last minute.
Well, that was a real Mad Men type presentation. Don Draper.
Carousel.
Yes.
Yeah, how many times have to pitch to clients?
That's good.
Excellent job. It looks beautiful. I love it. I think we definitely should vote for it now. Elections have consequences. We voted this man in for this reason. He said that he was the designer.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we should do it. And I think that something that looks professional is going to bring forward professional people to want to be on board.
Mrs. Vicky?
No comment.
Yeah, I agree with Keith, we definitely should vote now. My comments are very, very nuanced because I'm visual. I do like the colors and I like the typeface. My only thing, you know, tweaking the color a little bit, I'm totally okay with that. I like the darker one as a comment. The only thing is the mirror image, to me, the silhouette, I think it does a very good indication of the theater. I recognize that. But I would like the stronger silhouette, maybe those individual lines either tied off or something to create.
Tied off, like, over here?
No.
At
on
the top.
Here?
One
Yeah.
is topped.
Yeah, I like it at the top. I'm not sure, I'd have to see it, but I don't know if you did it that way, but other than that, like 99%, well done.
I like it a lot. I like the white background. I think the green is a little much, but that's just my preference. But you like it, you chose it, and I respect
Stands
that.
out.
Denise?
I think it stands out. I don't mind the green. It looks fine. I don't know whether the color, if the white background is gonna be what is, you know, the predominant one. I think
Yeah,
it's
probably
fine.
for business cards and
Yeah,
stuff.
Richard?
Very nice.
Yeah, two things. First thing, Mr. Kling, what's the Pantone number on that green?
I'll get back to you on that.
Please get it to me. And the other thing is, I'm wondering if we should treat it like a new piece of office equipment or a computer, whatever, basically, and run stuff in parallel for a little while until we know everything works out fine and nobody else is complaining about copyright infringement, trademark infringement, or any other type thing. We're already being confused with South Central LA already because of our, SCNC, we get wrong emails. So maybe we should run in parallel for a little
Yeah,
while,
that's the intention, so like.
until we actually, establish.
Yeah.
All right, why don't we vote on this? All in favor? Is that unanimous?
Yes.
Well done, Brian.
Thank you.
Great.
Good going.
Barry, take it away.
We have two motions, and I was just going to also mention that Lisa Karajian and I last week found out at the PRB meeting that the signal at Berry Drive in Ventura is supposed to happen by June 30th, so in this fiscal year, so keep your fingers crossed. And she did a lot to get some of the signals retimed at various intersections along Ventura. So you may notice some better timing going on at like Eureka, Radford, where else? Colfax and Whitsett, I think.
It's flowing a lot better.
Yeah, it's helped. So anyway, motion 15A. Last month, I came across information from the head of MTA that he was announcing that he wanted to study implementing fees on our freeways. And our freeways, our first freeway was called the Pasadena Freeway. It's now called the Arroyo Seco Parkway. It opened in 1940, so it's almost 80 years old. When the state got into building freeways back then, it was always said that California was going to be different from the East Coast, and our freeways were genuinely going to be free, and they were not going to have tolls, and they have not. Orange County's toll roads were something Orange County did on their own and raised money, and the money that they charge is paying off, the mortgage essentially on building the freeway to begin with, the roadway to begin with. Anyway, when I saw this, I thought to myself, we can't let this happen in a place where we've said our freeways are to be free. So this motion, it would go to our council member, who also happens to be an MTA board member, and we're asking him to make a motion to both the MTA and the LA City Council to oppose any pay-to-use fees on freeways in Los Angeles County, because the MTA represents Los Angeles County, not just the city. So that's where this motion comes from. And if you look on the back page of the agenda, the addendum, that is how I was taught to submit my motions to the president for making the agenda. And I have always done that, and many other chairs have.
That's great.
It's just never been printed on an agenda before. So you're seeing something that's happened for years. But as you can see, it's going to Paul Krikorian, but I'm copying a lot of other people. It's everyone, the first names you see are everyone on the MTA board, and then followed by our councilman. And then, of course, Doug Mensman is Krikorian's transportation deputy. Jackie Keene runs the NoHo office, and then our own Jessica. So that's about all I really have to say on. You want me to read it? Yeah. So the board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council requests that council member and MTA board member Paul Krikorian make a motion to both the Metropolitan Transit Authority, MTA, and the Los Angeles City Council to oppose any pay-to-use fee on free, in quotes, ways in Los Angeles County. For nearly 80 years, free ways have been built and maintained with the promise to the public that these free roadways would remain free in perpetuity. So that's it.
Richard?
Yeah, I'm all in favor of this. We already paid for the freeways once. The idea of paying for them over and over again is obscene. You want to pay extra for the HOA or take toll roads, which are alternate routes, to free routes that are available. That's your business, that's a free choice, but you get on the freeway, they take money from you by threat of government force, that's taxation stuff. Who did you say was proposing this, Barry, MTA, or is it coming?
MTA's president, or not, or manager, he's the executive manager, you know, and then the board, he answers to the board of which Krikorian is a member.
Thank you. Victoria?
Are you talking about the freeways, like the 405?
Like the 405, the 101.
134, 210.
How can they charge taxes on state roads?
Never say never when it comes to taxes.
Exactly.
And fees.
The tolls.
Read our lips.
Elected official?
What's that?
The man who proposed this idea, is
He
elected?
runs the MTA, but he answers to the board.
He's an employee of them.
He's an employee of the.
Of which Krikorian is one member.
Oh, we need to really get on this.
Yeah, we are right now.
That's why we're doing this,
Peter, do you have
yeah.
something?
To squelch it before it goes any
Peter,
further.
do you have anything? Comment? Okay, Eric?
Yeah, I support this. I would just say that congestion pricing is one of the things they're also doing, which is the same thing, and there are equity issues with that. Because if you make, it's a little more appealing to go fast, you pay a little, but then people who have to go as well. So I think this is a great motion, and I support it.
Heidi? Patrice? Brian? Mr. Welsh? Mr. O'Keefe? Yep, great, this is great.
Barry.
Cool, all in favor?
No.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Schwartzman.
Barry, how many board members are there?
On the MTA board?
Yeah.
I think it's
12 or
either
something.
12 or 15.
And all council, what's?
No, it's made up of a couple LA City
Different
Council members, a couple
Mayors.
LA County supervisors, the mayor of Inglewood, somebody else.
Mayor of
like
Long
in-
Beach,
Yeah,
a bunch of like county,
from around the county.
all over the county.
Yeah.
Ms. Weaver?
Yeah, I know that there was a very large grant from the Department of Transportation of the US to pay for putting in toll roads on primarily the 10, logistically. That project does not seem to work very well, even though it was hundreds of millions of dollars. I want to make sure that it just stays separate and does not in any, there's no impact on our freeways, it should stay free.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor? Unanimous? Cool. Barry?
All right, 15B, back at the end of November, the city let us know that to start off with, Studio City has no roadway over 35 miles an hour except Vineland Avenue, which is 40, other than the 101, but that's not a city road. So nothing in Studio City is over 35. We got the word that we were on the list because of a state law that mandates cities to up speed limits because of a formula of like if 85% of the people using a roadway are breaking the law, then they decide to up it, say 5 or 10 miles an hour. So for Studio City, we had 2 streets that were on the list of like 100 streets across the city. And initially, this state law came from rural areas where they were afraid that their speed traps were being set up. But you know LA, I mean, where have you ever seen a speed trap? I mean, usually the traffic's not going fast enough for most people. So our 2 streets in Studio City were Colfax between Ventura and Moore Park, just between Ventura and Moore Park, not going north of Moore Park, and Whitsett between Ventura and Riverside. Now, and they were going to increase from 35 to 40. How can you justify making those 2 streets 40 miles an hour when Laurel Canyon And by the way, those two streets have one lane in each direction. And they are not primary thoroughfares, they're like secondary. But the primary thoroughfare, Laurel Canyon, has 2 lanes in each direction, and it's staying 35. Vineland had 3 lanes in each direction, it's got 2 in each direction now, it's staying 40. It had been 40 just because it had been the 3 lanes, and they didn't reduce it to 35 when they put in the bike lanes. So this motion is not asking to change what the city's already got in motion to do. It's asking Krikorian, and this would copy to our 2 state representatives, to look at this state law and either repealing it or revamping it.
Do you want to read the motion?
Yeah, so that's basically it. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council requests that council member Paul Krikorian make a motion to support changing or repealing the state law that forces the city to increase speed limits due to 85% of vehicles on any given street going over the speed limit. The law, left unchecked, has the potential to keep raising speed limits on any given street indefinitely.
Okay, public comments, Richard Adams?
There are speed traps around town. There's heavily traffic shows up on Moore Park between Laurel Canyon and Colfax. There are condos on the south side of the street just have to come over the bridge. They hide there behind the bushes every so often and pop people. They also set up on Coldwater up north of us, right there near LA Valley College, once again, where there's curves. So there are speed traps in town.
You mean
And
Harvard?
then, the reason for this is speed limits are set. Okay, the speed limit for this street. If the reality is people are driving faster, the speed limit should be reflective of the reality. You know, if there's a lot of accidents or a lot of citations, then you don't have to change it, but the fact is people driving the speed that they're comfortable with, is safe. If you're not seeing any demonstration of problems, what's the problem? You know, it's just, you can't give the speed on any street indefinitely, because sooner or later you will reach the point where it's unsafe, or DOT can say, no, we can't raise it again.
Cool, thank you.
In which case, why is there
Victoria?
only traffic out there enforcing the speed limit already? So I think this.
We said thanks. Victoria?
This whole concept is crazy to me, crazy thinking. I don't know what's wrong with them. I mean, if you've seen me drive, you want to slow people down. Well, Patrice won't even get in the car. Serious. And Janine won't either. But seriously, on Woodsit, it's a speedway, and it's very dangerous. People are going 60 miles an hour up and down Woodsit. And we're looking to have speed bumps and lights put in on Woodsit to slow people down.
Please, no.
We don't want higher speeds as residents. And yeah, I like to drive fast, but if I get a ticket, I get a ticket. I think this is a crazy idea to raise these speed limits like this.
Peter?
Yeah, I would get in the car. What's the, we saw that accident that people were complaining about, that one guy that goes, right near Whole Foods.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway, the thing with the speed limits is I usually see a particular, one guy that's going, 80 miles an hour.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not, it's one guy causing havoc or a particular age group of males that need to let their yayas out. So if we had police, we could easily catch those are the guys got in trouble. Speed limit is the issue.
Yeah, I have a question, because I feel that there's definitely a law that you have to have a traffic study if you're going to increase the speed limit, that you can't. And you can't use sonar and stuff to get people until you do those things. So the city, who, believe it or not, does like to get revenue from ticketing people because they feel it helps, it's happening now, but the question is, does the city have to do it? And I don't know that that's true. And I think that there should be something in this motion that says to Krikorian, sir, with respect, we appreciate your challenging the state on the law, but do not increase the speed on these thoroughfares near our kids and our students, because it's ridiculous. The lone crazy driver that somebody mentioned at 80 miles an hour will not be stopped by this. They will hurt people no matter what. We've learned from Vision Zero, which is complicated, but the one principle is that lower speeds, less people get hurt, and it's just, this is unnecessary, and and they're gonna park officers from Valley Traffic that will somehow be put in our mix to tag our parents going to and from, people driving around and being pulled over for going 30 or 42 or whatever the new speed limit is. And so I am very worried about this, frankly, and I wonder if we should just say, let's request that this not happen and take it to the state, because take it to the state and, oh, well, needs to be challenged, because I don't believe, oh, well.
I wrote him an email just as a stakeholder, and he wrote me back the second time in 15 years, or 10 years, he's written me back personally. And he gets this. But it's like, it's gotta be a change on the state level.
So that they can continue to increase
before they can stop this forcing of upping speed limits on little streets like Colfax and Whitsett.
So the question is it a force or not? Is the DOT making the decision based on the new data, and we have the right to say, no, DOT, we don't want it?
Making the decision for them, it's telling them they have to increase it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I disagree with you a little bit, but we'll get then, move forward.
Heidi?
No.
Teresa?
So, on both of these motions, is there any way that you can reach out to other NCs to get them to do these same motions? Because I think it'd hold a lot more weight if everyone in LA
I certainly,
had a motion like
this motion, if passed, is gonna go to all the council. It's copied to somebody, our representative, Valley rep at LADOT, and then all the other council members. But I think I can get like the email address and also copy all the other neighborhood councils.
So and I was gonna bring this up later, but I just got approval for next door for the Studio City neighborhood councils, and whatever you post goes out to all of the neighborhood councils.
Neighborhood councils as
Excuse
well?
me,
All the
yeah, to all the
Studio
neighborhood
City
councils,
stakeholders.
Studio City, but I'm getting all these.
You mean all the next doors?
Well, now I'm getting all these next door from all the other councils since I signed up for this.
Oh.
So it might reach out to all of the neighborhood councils in LA.
Okay,
Oh, really?
great.
Yeah.
If
So-
passed, we definitely can get the word out.
The power.
Right?
My God, no, I'm good.
Barry, I love you. I was all for 15A. 15B, I think I agree with what other people were saying, that increasing it to 40 is not gonna get rid of the people going 60.
Right.
I mean, they're just gonna do their thing. I'm known as the local, in my little neighborhood, the speeding vigilante guy who goes out and screams at people for speeding, hate speeding. But going 40, that seems, I don't know,
35 to 40?
let's move along, you know what I mean? Let's drive.
I'm drive right past me.
I support this.
Yeah, I think it's I know why the city supports it, because we basically don't have a enforcement arm anymore. I mean, when you went quickly 30 or 20 years ago, you were actually pulled over. When was the last time you actually saw a cop pulling over a car for doing something?
I
People
saw
are
it the
making.
other day, I was shocked.
I know, isn't
I
that
was shocked.
amazing?
I wanted
It's
to take
rare.
a picture.
Now we have people doing U-turns in the middle of Ventura Boulevard and doing just everything they can possibly do. And the reason why is because we don't have an enforcement arm, and they're going to keep going faster and faster. This is just letting people off the hook, which is notably our city and our enforcement arm. Yeah, let it keep going higher and higher. No, you know what? We should be at a certain rate that's safe. People cross Whitsett. It's a highly residential, very dense area. And I know someone who actually was hit by a car on Whitsett. Let's stop letting the state pass all of these laws that alleviate the state's responsibility to actually run a city civilly. I support this.
Yeah, I can't support this. I think there needs to be methods to make changes and to do testing and to come up with 85% of the vehicles. It's not going to go up to 60. It's going 35 to 40. I probably go 50 on that street, and I'm going flow of traffic. So I support it. And, you know, Keith doesn't have to drive with me.
Denise?
I think 35 to 40 is like, really? Who cares? People drive 50 on that street.
Richard?
Yeah, I support the motion as is. I just want to put information in, is that, remember, on freeways, it's a posted number, 55, 65, whatever, on, which are the white signs. And the yellow signs for everything, but is safe for conditions. It may say 35 or 40, but you still can be ticketed for going under, or you can be not ticketed for going over, depending on safe for conditions. Again, doing thousands of cases in Van Nuys, that's really what the case is. And again, we're only enforcing state law in the LA Superior Court of Van Nuys, and so, no matter what we do here, we have to follow what the state law is. And I think basically that safe conditions is an important part, and we should keep that valid.
Patrick,
Yeah.
you passed over me, but can I just change my mind
Yep.
and speak for a sec? I just want to make sure people realize this is not just decide between 35 and 40, it's the principle of the law, and we're trying to keep the state out of our local areas to make their decision for us. So it's not just from 35 to 40. It's the principle of having the state law that forces cities to do things, and the cities should be able to do their own.
You do their own traffic.
Traffic, yeah.
Good point, good point.
So I just want to make sure it's not just, 35 to 40, big deal. No, it's behind that. Okay.
Sovereignty. Let's vote.
Let's vote on this. All in favor? Okay, all opposed, just in suspend? I'm with you here. All right, motion passes. I hate to do this to everyone, but I actually have to run, and I've already talked to Brian, so he's gonna get trial by fire right now. Everyone else, Brian?
Give him a hard time.
Oh, you guys are gonna, you're about to regret this decision, by the way.
Do you want any paper? Patrick?
Oh, yeah. Actually,
Or just give it to Bryce?
Does someone do the BACs on these things?
You can add stickers to your.
Patrick, you handed off the paperwork for like a BAC?
I'll get it on.
It's not on my diet.
You stay put.
Thanks. Thanks, buddy. All right, so we're gonna move on to the budget committee report, Mr. President.
Right, so we had a budget meeting, and it was very good. We talked about the things on the agenda, the election, and as a result, there was a request for reimbursement for the copies that were made for our work during December, I believe on the bylaws committee, the GAC committee, and several others. We had to do the packets, so I am requesting that these copies that I make at Kinko's, I would love to learn how to do it in the office, but I'm an Apple person, and we've made inroads, but if someone can explain, there's no Wi-Fi in the office, I would be happy to just do it in the office, but until
There
such time.
is, you just have to get the password for
Yeah,
it.
you have to call IT.
There is, what,
There
there's
is.
there's Wi-Fi, and
Call
can we
IT,
print?
There's Wi-Fi, NPC.
Okay, well, if someone wants to show
The
me.
technical
yeah.
issue is unrelated to the expense.
Well, I'm just explaining the expense, those are the expenses, right? They're for ordinary photocopies and printer ink. So, that's my comment.
Is there public comment on this?
Barry, you got one?
Oh, yeah, you definitely, the Wi-Fi is the way to go, I think, for you.
Okay, so tell me the Wi-Fi and password.
Yeah.
Do you have it?
No, I don't know what it is, because when I use it in there, I'm using the PC that's.
Okay, this is what happens every time though, so let someone help me then. Put it in my phone.
Hold on, guys. Can we
Every
let's
time.
finish with public comment first, and then we can move to board comments.
What you,
I think Barry has access to the CBS internet because he's a KCAL9 employee, which makes it easier to log on. That's just an observation. I was going to ask while we're making copies when there is a copy machine.
You okay?
that's what Craig was
They
talking
may have been
about.
slippery.
Are you okay?
Public safety.
Anyway,
Are you all right?
Yeah.
she's startled. Trust me. Anyway, where was I? There's a copy machine in the office, and there's this really new cutting-edge technology. It's called print a copy at home on your home printer, take it into the office, put it into the printer, and hit copy. You can make as many as you want. There's also the option of contacting the CBS printing office here on the lot, and they may even have an email address. You can send in what you want, copies you need made, and they'll punch them out and put them in the SCNC, and they'll send the bill to the neighborhood council. So we have options besides going to Kinko's usually. Now, granted, if you're doing the president and you're putting off a whole stack of agendas and you'd be collated, stapled, whatever, CBS or Kinko's, but for little bits and pieces like this, I'm not saying don't pay them out, I'm just saying there's other ways to approach this issue going forward.
Peter?
3 years into this board, and we're just finding out how to use the Wi-Fi. So this is part of why I took over the email system and all that, and tried to make it so anybody, enabling everybody that they can do whatever. So perhaps a part of the it's unrelated, but maybe we can all pull everybody jump ship or goes to the free up that all these things are written down for the next people. So.
Great
And
point.
I know Rita Villa used the Wi-Fi in the office, our
Yes.
last secretary.
Great, you want to email me you have it? Is that what you're saying, Lisa?
What you
Sorry.
have to do is you have to come to the office, you have to call the IT department at Radford. They will come to the office and plug in your password for you on your phone, on your laptop, on your iPad, wherever you need it. They don't just go, it's, Sky 7985.
Well, I would argue.
They have to do it for
Let me make
you.
a proposal, that we get a printer or some kind of a copy machine wherein people who are on the board and on the committees can simply arrive with their original that they print out at home and make copies without having to get.
Well, that you
Because
can.
all of us, none of
That
us
you
have the Wi-Fi on our
No,
phones
no,
at the
no,
moment.
that you can. You can print out, if you bring a sheet of paper and use the copy machine.
There's a copy machine in the room that works as a
Yes.
copy machine?
Yes.
So I keep asking, let's do it. Next time I'm there, I'll do it. Believe me, I get no thrill from going to Kinko's. It is annoying. But I can't show up without copies.
It's right next to the conference room desk,
Okay.
and you just lift up the cover, put your.
And press play.
Well, and you can shoot it through too, you can lift it up or.
Great, so next meeting, we'll work on that.
Yeah, we'll have a whole
Great.
thing.
Yeah, I'll bring my original.
I mean, yeah, my comment is just that we're only going to have one back for this, the city's not going to approve it.
Well, we appreciate that, but we'll see. Because, I mean,
Right, so Eric, I would say that pushing all boundaries is almost the same as pushing no boundaries.
Right.
That's all, just a comment for you.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand
But yeah,
that.
we'll put it through and it'll be
Right.
kicked back.
Well, I appreciate the prediction, but last time they did pay, if the board approves an expense and it's a reasonable reimbursement
What
from a
last
board
time did
member.
they pay?
Well, I did this one time before for a
Yes,
small
and
expense,
if you
and I did it for the
recall-
board,
if
for
you
the open
recall,
forum.
I specifically had you take out like $3 worth of expenses that predated the board authorization.
Which I did.
And that's why they paid it. Because those that predated the authorization were not in the expense. But I don't want to waste, I'd rather just go put it through than continue to talk about it now.
The
We're
board
talking
has
about how to
approved
print for
office
the print.
expenses every month, so it could come out of that line if there's, I don't foresee a problem. And if they want to say we're not going to reimburse the guy, they can say that. Obviously, that's their prerogative.
Do you have receipts for this?
Of course, and they've been submitted. I mean,
So alternatively, also, if you have a Mac, the printer has a USB that goes into the PC, and there's a point right near where the table is, and you can just unplug it and plug it into your Mac and just print it like that.
Maybe
That
we
also
could do
works.
that together
I'm
sometime.
just saying it for the record, like Peter Cole said.
That would be
it's
great.
integrated.
That's great.
So maybe one thing we can experiment with is mysteriously installing an Apple router in there, and magically Wi-Fi will show up in the office for us. Maybe we could try that.
We can.
That sounds like a good
discuss it
idea.
probably offline.
And then we can
Alex?
do it at CBS.
Andrew, do you have anything? Lisa? Denise? Richard?
As of 6 PM tonight or so, only 1 out of the 3 printers in the office, 2 in the conference room, 1 in the inner office, was functional. It'd be sure be great, at least we could get the one that's on top of the refrigerator operational again. I think it just needs a cartridge. So at least we'll have 2 out of 3. Because right now, it's waiting in line.
I've been meaning to make a list of the cartridges we need, so maybe I'll do
That would be
that and
good.
give it-
Yeah, all the technical stuff, but let's get to the vote on this. All right, guys, let's do a roll call because it's financial, right?
Okay.
All right, Patrice?
Patrice.
Patrice?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Me, I say yes. Claire? Oh, that's right, you don't get to do it yet. Alex?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Patrick is absent. Heidi?
Yes.
Janine is absent. Richard Niederberg?
Yeah.
Eric?
Yes.
think Eric can vote on that.
You gonna vote on this?
On a reimbursement?
It's his reimbursement.
There's never,
You can
there's
vote
not,
on it. Not gonna make a difference anyway.
It's not a financial interest.
there's no prohibition against it, that I'm aware of.
Craig's
the
on the
numbers.
board. Keith? Strong.
Yes.
Marshall's off. Andrew?
Yes.
Richard Welsh?
Abstain.
Denise?
Yes.
And passes. Thank you.
You won't get it.
All right, Treasurer's report, Richard Welsh.
All right. Does anybody want to log on to the neighborhood council funding system dashboard and look at that with me? Because that's basically what I'm going from. If you go to the city clerk's website, which has the most up-to-date information. You know what the,
Where is it?
you have it?
LCD, clerk.LCD.
cityclerk.lc.org, NC funding portal, dashboard.html.
Didn't see.
And, we have the NC funding program dashboard, and then you've got to enter Studio City. You're seeing, when you land, you're seeing all of the,
Everyone.
the neighborhood council system globally.
So we go to Studio City here.
Yeah.
Just to narrate, because this makes great radio.
Yeah.
All right, cool, here we are, the dashboard.
Make sure everything is back.
Let me catch up to you now.
Just tell me if you
I'm
just
just gonna interpret Danza.
All right, so we have, right now, we have a net available, there are some outstanding commitments, things that haven't been paid, put through yet, right? That's in the total outstanding, $1,330. We have a net available of $26,412.54. Out of that, I would generally, well, we went over this at the
Right.
budget committee meeting, right? Back out the $9,000 that we have committed for the election and about approximately
13.
$500 a month in expenses going forward. We
3,000,
didn't vote
yeah.
on the benches, right? There was the
10,
calculation we
right.
had done backed out $4,000 for benches, which we'll find out about next month. But anyway, we're about $15,000 if we take out the 17 if we take out the 9,000 for election.
I thought less. Wait, did I misunderstand? It's
Well,
26 minus 9.
We assumed that, for the sake
Right.
of argument at the budget committee meeting, that we were gonna back out, that we're gonna take out the
Right.
$4,000 for the neighborhood purpose grant to Rio Vista School, right, which we haven't
Right.
done yet.
Just fast forward, do we have about 10 now, do you feel, or a bit, little more?
13.
I would say 15, right?
Oh, okay, so,
But with the recognition that we may still commit, right, the 4,000.
Right.
We didn't vote on the benches.
so it would be the 15 minus the 4,
Minus
so around 10, a little more than 10 is what we
Right.
think we have.
And then if you back out, what do we came up with, $6,000 for
Right.
the next period of $500 a month in board.
That's
board meeting
3,000.
Expenses, et cetera. Anyway, that's kind of an outline of where we are. I think we're going to have to, we're probably not going to do any community improvement grants, right, which are physical kind of infrastructure things like we've done in the past, which includes.
Might though, you
Well,
don't think?
okay, I mean, I wouldn't rule it out, we haven't seen any applications for it, but if we do not, we're going to need to have a specific re-budget for
Yeah.
that amount before we can spend it, so
But, yeah,
that's just that's kind of a point of process. I mean, we do have it we have a certain allocation in the budget for community improvement projects, $2,000, right? Not a lot, but if we want to reallocate it at some point, it will take a board vote. That's my point. So,
But we have 2,000 in there right now.
that's correct. It's
If we-
per the budget.
If we reallocate another 2,000 to make it 4,000, let's say, we have to do another vote?
If we want to increase it, or
Yeah.
if we want to put that money someplace else, it would take a modified budget vote.
Right, okay.
So that's something to think
But
about
as of
going
right now, the
forward.
2,000 cities.
Is there, and we have had no proposals for any
Okay.
kind of improvement grant. Mr. Niederberg?
Yeah, I note that with Rob resigning basically, and nobody has requested money for the big summer event in Moore Park. If so, we should make allowances for that. If somebody wants to bring it to the budget committee to get it approved, then bring it to the board. But in the meantime, basically, I think that's something we normally do. I don't do it, but, Robbie used to do it. Somebody should basically be doing that particular event, and if so, we should allocate money for it. That's a big ticket item too.
I think that's true. Now, the outreach is kind of, in terms of the way the city looks at our budget, is a kind of a catch-all category, right? And so right now, our line 200 outreach, which was per the original budget from last June, included Luminaria, $4,000, Summer Festival, $8,000, Green Living Fair, $1,500, right? So if we're not spending those things for those events, we have that money for either
But
other
somebody
events
has
or
to
outreach.
request it. Nobody, none of the budget committee,
Understood.
and ask the money set aside.
Well,
Right.
If somebody
Right.
wants,
Okay, yeah.
if somebody wants to do
Yeah,
it, please do it.
Are you gonna have public comment on this?
Sure. Do you have a public comment?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I was
I'm
gonna-
kind of,
Dude, I'm trying
It
to.
takes a village.
I'll be filing your grievance tomorrow. Anyway,
over this hat, right?
that's a crime against nature, I don't think it's other people.
Anyway, please.
Anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted, Richard brought up the point I was gonna bring up during public comment. Whatever you do, you need to save enough money to do, the return of the revenge of the Great Summer Kickoff, whatever we wanna call it this year. I would be happy to participate in the planning and setting up of that. I don't think I have all the chops to be the head person in charge, but I can certainly be a spark plug and help whoever wants to take the leadership role. I like being VP.
Somebody's gotta be a figurehead. I'll help out, but somebody else gotta be the figurehead.
Okay.
You can be the figurehead, we'll just sail on the night.
Okay, so anybody that wants to volunteer to resurrect or to continue the tradition of the summer event,
or,
please step forward.
or we could, I mean, it's
But you
possible.
realize, whoever's not running
A new
is
board.
not gonna be involved,
Right, I think
right?
that that's an odd timing, because the
That's gonna be a
planning
new
for it,
board.
we discussed that in the meeting. That's a June,
Well,
it's,
I mean, it's not necessarily.
well, it has to be funded before the end of June 30th, so it's like,
Yeah,
it's fast.
It has to be funded now, because you're putting it on.
But we don't have to do it exactly the same way. There's no cookie cutter requirement. And we don't have to do, it could be a totally different thing, I mean,
It could
the
be a
point
wine
is,
event.
right, it could be a wine event, right. It could be a wine tasting, spreadsheets. No, but,
A Studio City wine.
We can't
Yeah,
spend
there you
it.
go.
but the big takeaway is that there's about $11,000 left in the budget that's not yet apportioned, assuming things are apportioned. And people could make requests through the regular process. There's nothing, everything is accomplishable, even if there's a meeting that's required to change it to a community. If we can think of some community project that we all think is great, or somebody thinks is great, or an event, or insert other things. A lot of the energy is in the elections now, so that's why.
Right, that seems like an appropriate summary. Can we vote on, unless anybody has any other questions, we took public comments, any other public comments on that? Okay, can we move to approve the MRR, which was a copy? This is,
You gotta call.
it's a voice. Sorry.
We're not voting on it.
Right, we're not funding it, right? Just,
Anything that's to do with
is it roll call or not?
No.
roll call, if it pertains to money. Is that a voice vote? Or-
Yeah, we'll just do it just to be,
No.
just to be sure, we'll do it.
Yeah, okay.
Money we have
I'll-
to-
Oh, it
we'll
has to
stop
do
the
with
names.
So this is to approve the MRR, which was a link to which was.
Yes, for the MRR.
Okay, so Patrice,
Yes.
me, yeah. Alex?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Heidi?
Yep.
Richard Niedeberg?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Keith Schwallenberg?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Richard Welch?
Yeah.
Denise?
Yes.
Great. Passes.
All right, now, this one I've got the back for, right, but any other money ones that we voted on need to have this, that, ultimately signed by Mr. Niederreiter and myself.
Should we do that for the reimbursement right now while everyone's here? Is there a blank form?
You've got it, yeah.
Do you have a blank form, or no?
No, I've got the MRR. I always do the MRR because that's specifically
Right,
related
but-
to the treasurer's obligation.
So there's not one in the room?
It's been real, it's been.
I took notes on what. Okay, 18, to move to comments from members on subject matter within the board's jurisdiction. Eric?
Yeah, I just want to say that we had a great Friday night forum. I think it was really amazing that the FAA group showed up in big numbers-ish, and there was someone from the LAUSD came to give us an update on the strike, and lots of people from our neighborhood, and there was issues brought up about short-term rentals, and there was a great local 27-year-old trying to be local. She wants to live here. She's a dispensary worker, and she's looking for affordable housing, and it got the group talking about affordable housing. I was very pleased with the outcome, and I appreciate everybody who came and who helped. And finally, the YouTube video that we cut together to sort of is got like 400 and something clicks already, so I think that's good news, and it's leaving a positive impression, I hope, with people, and look forward to more events. So, thanks.
Yeah, I think town hall once a month would be a great thing for the neighborhood council to start doing, so.
Okay, so I'm going to just run through some procedural things because everyone was kind of stupidly gave me power with today's meeting in circumstance. So I'm just going to run through this thing. I'm going to ask patience. I have to add a couple motions to this agenda. I'm going to need a 2/3 vote, which is 8 people for the board. So first, I'd like to make a motion, and I'll need a second, I think, as well. I'd like to make a motion to establish the ad hoc committee on elections. So,
Seconded.
But a point of order, can you,
Yes.
is this a legitimate
If it's not on the
Yes.
agenda, you mean?
opportunity to add
Denise,
these
no.
things by
Yes.
motion
Yes.
at this point?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
He's adding an ad hoc committee. He just
I'm adding an
needs to-
ad hoc committee,
Yeah.
and because the
He needs-
president is not here and I'm vice president, I'm now empowered to make the decisions on the vice president.
Could
And I'm
you
able to-
add that?
and-
You
and
should
I'll
add
say
the
this-
government
And I'll just say
What
this
is
too.
appropriate?
Just to say this, is like, according to the Brown Act, I just need a 2/3 majority vote to add it to the.
Somebody has to second your motion? and we
I
need
did.
to-
Yeah.
I'll
Yes.
second it.
Can we move to the vote?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Of the ad hoc election committee?
Yes. Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so second motion I'd like to do is to appoint myself as election chair. Is there public
I'll
comment?
second it.
Thank you. Should we just vote?
Yeah.
All opposed, or all in favor?
There you go.
Get it right.
Keep firing them out.
And then I have one more motion to add to this, and it's just because Section 2, Part B in the bylaws say that where an ad hoc committee has a majority of board members in the committee, any action of the committee shall be submitted, considered, and voted on by the board at a notice board meeting. That's here, which means we have no way to meet outside of that. Unless the board has stated otherwise, no action of the committee will be considered an action of the board. So, because that is written into the bylaws, I am making a motion for the ad hoc committee on elections will have the same autonomy and authority as a standing committee as it relates to the numbers of SCNC board members that are on the committee.
I second.
Great. And then, public comment?
I would say, out of all the things you've done, which I'm perfectly in favor of because you're now following the rules, I think that one needs to be agendized publicly, i.e. ahead of time. So that people know that that one's being voted on. I'd have to do the wording again, I'm not trying to hold you up.
Yeah.
But we're trying to play.
Absolutely. Here's my response to that, is this is going to be the last board meeting before candidate registration's open. And currently, we do not have a, as you pointed out, actually, we do not have a functioning legal ad hoc committee on elections. And it will have to meet, I would imagine this committee would meet several times, not just once a month.
Because this is about elections, might I ask that the committee, even if it's not necessarily required by the Brown Act, to at least announce they're happening?
What's that?
The ad hoc committee on elections.
100%. They are all public meetings, and we post the schedule 72 hours at a time. Peter.
Go, Brian.
I'm just wielding power.
Now you know why.
It's all about civic power, though.
Now you know why I nominated you.
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, if there's no, I mean, if you can do it, then you
Yeah,
can
let's
do
vote on
anything, right? There's no reason.
Well, I just want to make sure that because this says unless the board has publicly stated otherwise.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm making this motion to publicly state otherwise.
Okay.
Second?
So, yeah, all in favor? And that's unanimous.
Full
Okay,
transparency.
now I have a comment on the regular comment.
Yes.
You were all on an email chain a while back about a Public Records Act request I put in, where Mijo referred to me numerous times as thing. It's one of the depersonalizations things that I took exception with various powers that be. But as often happens, especially with obstinate 11 Bravo infantryman, cav trooper, and Taurus, I decided to embrace the alleged insult and spent a fair amount of money to import this licensed Marvel t-shirt from England just to wear important.
That's hysterical.
That's why if you look at my comic card guy, this is Richard Fang Adams. I wasn't going to quite throw the fifth Wayne did last month with putting something else on there.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Mockery is the best defense against tyrants.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Continuing on with board comments.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the homeless committee has a couple things that are going on just in the community. So if you know people who want to support different homeless organizations, there's Lydia Sussman is doing a bake sale on Sunday across from the market, and also there is a organization.
I've tasted most of it, and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Where across from, where?
Just at the Keller Williams, Keller Williams, so right at the crosswalk there. It's going to be going on from 9 to 11. And then the other thing I was going to say, is that there's an organization called No Ho Home Alliance, which is in North Hollywood, which is serving a lot of the homeless population in our area, people from Studio City, North Hollywood. And they are actively looking for volunteers. So if you know of people who want to volunteer helping serve people, they offer meals and showers there, and then they connect them with people for mental health and housing help, and they have on-site doctors. It's a really amazing grassroots program that's completely run by volunteers, and they're doing really incredible work, and there's Studio City stakeholders who volunteer there in North Hollywood. So I just wanted a big shout out to them, and their website is nohohome.org. Thanks.
Okay, I just want to mention, Eric, thank you for your event. It was great. What it really demonstrated, I'll leave this to our future members who will be running, having that location just really demonstrated the fluidity of having just a place, even though it was called a forum, it just had such an ease of access that would really ask our board to really reconsider having our board meetings here. I love the infrastructure. I think it's a great place, kind of in a studio lot. It has a lot of panache, but its lack of fluidity and access is devastating, and no one really can come here. I mean, they don't want to, but it seemed like at the library, maybe that venue's a little too tight, but just the idea of saying, yeah, come down to the park, maybe Beaman Park, man, you will have an incredible spike in participation if you take that into consideration. Move the venue. It's great that we've been here, and they've been incredibly generous to offer this venue, but I think it's just stymied and suppressed interaction, and that's what our goal is, right? Participation. Thank you.
But to that, it's nice to have an office.
But not at the cost of our.
But we don't have to give it up.
Not at the cost.
Yeah, can I?
Yeah, for
why
committee
can't we keep
meetings.
the office?
Well,
Yeah.
we.
Yeah.
And have less committee meetings, more big
But
meetings.
wow, what an eye opener! I've been on the board for 5 years, and I've never seen such a just again osmosis of ideas, people. Really refreshing.
Well, maybe we could wean into that, like, really, all the work goes into the committees. The committees is where these motions start, and then they end up here. So maybe if we had the committee meetings there,
Right.
more people would come and participate
And the
in the
public out
committee
there, right.
meeting, and then we could still have our board meeting here, because we might need size, and we can have our office, but maybe start just doing the committee meetings there, to just, maybe test it out.
A mix.
Yeah.
We are expecting a full-size $10 million basketball court in
Nowhere.
Beaman Park.
Or is it 14?
It's up
That's
to
nowhere
12.
near the library.
It's up to 12.
Oh, you mean to
No,
have
that's
them
at
there?
Beaman Park.
Just do everything.
Which was discussed at
Well,
the open
in
forum.
3
Yeah.
years when that
Right.
happens.
Just a thought, man.
Yeah.
It was great,
Well, it
great
was also,
event.
it was also not subject to the Brown Act, right? I mean, so.
No, it was not, but we do
I
post.
mean, that's a huge
But I don't think anything that was,
facilitator of fluidity. in
nothing,
content.
nothing that was done there, though, would have violated the
No,
Brown
no, I'm
Act.
not
If-
suggesting.
Right, because there was no
I'm saying
action.
to have a
But the
discussion
fact that
about-
people just parked
Right.
and walked in.
Yeah, it
and
was
you felt
great.
the breeze of the door when it
Yeah.
opens up, people are It's
Yeah.
it's
Oh, get marked
literally
out.
just a wonderful concept.
Andrew, do you have a public, or a comment?
No.
Lisa?
Thank you.
Working on what Heidi was talking about, if you had people coming to the committee meetings and they were involved, they would come here to a board meeting to listen to everybody's motions and talk about the motions.
Yeah, I think it's
At least
great,
stick around.
great way
Yeah.
to start bringing them in is the
Yeah.
committee
I
meeting.
think that the secret sauce of these meetings is that people drive it. They get to have
Yeah.
input. When we have meetings, and I obviously am part of that, it's a different structure. So I think that there's something about the forum where we'll listen to anyone and anybody. And we figured out that people can come up and be the presenter if they have something to say. And rather than limiting that, we let them talk for a while, you know. So I thought it was, but committees can be done there, you know, we just have to.
How late is it open?
Well, that's the problem, is that it does cost something. It costs the $200, so you need a kind of a special event. I mean, you could come up with
200, because it's.
but that's
last
because,
night,
yeah, there are some nights of the week when it's open in the early evening, I think. We'll have to check. I'll check availability for things like that.
Yeah, but just ideas like
Yeah,
that.
but the Friday night thing, I think, works well for when we want to have something that's not a Brown Act meeting or a committee meeting, maybe a committee meeting, but a thing where we want people to pop in when they're done working, and they can reflect what they think, and, you know, I think that works well.
Richard, do you have a comment?
No, that's a no.
Niederberg?
No,
No
not
pause.
really, except, as you probably received the emails already, we can't be in school for the notice.
Right.
With that said, I'm just gonna make one comment just about the public forum, or the open forum, is that I agree. It's like the level, just seeing a active civic engagement in this town is something inspiring. And I think that's moving forward, that should be a goal one, you know? And I think there's a hunger and a thirst for it, and I think that we have it. And that's also why it's been on the election budget agenda, is like, we're gonna have 4 more of these between now and May. And I think that that's gonna really engage the public.
It's also a great way to find out.
Comment as president?
Well,
I have a public comment for you.
it's not done, but yeah, go ahead.
I would like to point out, riffing on what Mr. Previn said about getting people to get up there and talk or whatever, that other people have said that the stakeholders drive the meeting. You get them to come to the committee meeting so they're excited that this is their issue. As we've seen in the past over the years, because I've been coming here a long damn time. These are not my memorial chairs. Anyway, people will stay until their agenda item's called and then. But if you've got people for each agenda, you will have people there longer, listening to more things, and maybe they'll get into it. And on the public comments, I would point out that if you look at our operating procedures, public comments are supposed to be 3 minutes, except as reduced as necessary by the president. And for years, it was 2 minutes, which is a reasonable amount of time to get some decent comments in without going on at length. And it has been this, certain people believe that public comments will make the meetings long. No, public comments don't make the meetings long. I've sat here, it's the back and forth and back and around, people talking past each other. But public comments are what this board is all about, because you're to get the feedback from us, the stakeholders, distill it, synthesize it, and push it forward. So stifling comments is not the solution to faster meetings, more efficient meetings, and it defeats the purpose of the neighborhood council. Thank you.
That's true.
I beg to differ with everything he said. The Friday night forum is great. You have a diverse group of people. They're allowed to talk to each other freely. They're not limited to 3 minutes. As far as these meetings going long, I can give you a count in the 20-some-odd minutes of time plus that certain stakeholders take out of the meeting, because I record all the meetings. So public comment, it just falls, it's, you say something and it falls on, you're not allowed to comment to it. Rather, these forums are great. They're back and forth. I hope we have a lot more.
Great. Well, I thank you for giving me what little power I have for tonight's meeting. And with that, I move to adjourn.
We need help with